Boom. How's everyone doing? I hope everyone's having a great day. I've got myself a glass of wine, so it's a good way to start off the week. I hope everyone else has something good to sip on, whether it's wine or something else. And I also have, I guess, a little bit of news. Got some progress here, and that is I can just show everyone my little bit of progress here. So got this, and now I'm just gonna apply this carefully. A little askew, but that's what you get when you're oh, that's a lot of skew. Oh well. But I think it kind of fits with the everyone makes mistakes brand there, so we'll just call that workable. You can see it's I've enlarged the labeling there, and yeah. And Nick, I am really curious about this one. You're gonna have to tell me about that because that's exciting. But yeah, so I've got the labels now, and we're just I guess the only remaining step is I got to figure out how to mail these things without causing them to get destroyed in the process, because I don't want to send things out and have them arrive as broken glass and disappointment. That's not where that's not what I'm sort of looking for. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to start sending these out, and I've got little shrink wrap things that I'll be putting on them soon. So I guess I can do some of that later today. But yeah, so some of these will hopefully be getting sent out in the mail soon. I just got to figure out how that works. And this one is going to be, again, badly askew because I'm doing this while I'm doing something else. So I guess we got a few really badly labeled ones. If you get one of the badly labeled ones, hopefully you'll forgive me because, yeah. Somebody says, what sort of peppers are they? They are based on habanero, although the spicier one is habanero with a bit of Carolina Reaper. And the spicier one, I've got the labels for that too. So let me see if I can actually do a good job of labeling one. Probably not, but we're going to try. So I'm just going to see if I can get this eyeballed properly. And so this is the spicier version. This one is Burn Your Regrets. So hopefully people like these. Hopefully I am really looking forward to seeing people's opinions on them. So I'm excited about getting some of these off in the mail. As I mentioned, I'm probably going to set these up as a as sort of the initial ordering will sort of be a member perk. So on the Patreon or here, and then or on locals, wherever you want to support the channel, all of those will get access to sort of the early ordering. And then once that goes through, then I will then we'll sort of finish things up, and I'll open it up to everyone for whatever's left. Hopefully there will be some left. So that is that's kind of the game plan on those. But I am excited. This is like one step closer. My wife is excited because this has them one step closer to being out of my house. And yeah, so burn your regrets. And the other is everyone makes mistakes. So in terms of the game plan today, we've got some cases to cover. We're going to look over some of those. And then after that, I've actually already got a second. I'm actually sort of double streaming right now, in the sense that I've got you can actually hear the fan or the ceiling fan in the background there, but that is set up for leatherwork. So that is so once we sort of wrap up here, I'm planning on moving out there to do a little bit of leather work if people want to see that. And now part of the reason why I'm sort of showing the leather work is that I am currently trying to raise some interest in the I'm doing a fundraiser for Extra Life, and I'm hoping I haven't been as good at hyping it this year. So hopefully we'll see if we can get some interest going. But the Extra Life fundraiser is it supports the Stollery Children's Hospital, and I'm just going to give you guys the link here. I think this is the right link. So the goal for this year is $50,000. That is a big, big goal. I don't know if I can actually make that happen, but we're gonna try. And if we can make that happen, they will put up a plaque for me at the hospital. But that's not really what it's about. It's about helping out the kids. I am trying to be, trying to be a little bit selfish on this one. So, all right. Now, so there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. I see, yeah, but I want my damn plaque. I mean, it'd be nice. It'd be kind of cool to be to have that up at the hospital. But at the end of the day, what I'm really hoping to do is to make some corporations very unhappy. Last year, there were a bunch of corporations that ended up having to do emergency donations to themselves, and that was because they or to their own sort of Extra Life package, and that was because they wanted to be on the top 10, and they wanted to they wanted to advertise that, and they couldn't because yeah. So I was pushing them down on the rankings. So because of that, they were ending up sort of going, hey, we're just going to have to donate to ourselves. So every time I got a donation, they were also donating. It was actually pretty cool. So all right. Let's talk a little bit about Corey Richens. Corey Richens has got some stuff going on, so we're going to go over that one. All right. So a couple of things here. The first thing we'll look at is a motion to dismiss, and this one is like all of these, kind of fun. So just 1 second here. I'm just having some technical difficulties. Please stand by. That reference probably dates me a little bit because I don't think that they've done those in a while. But all right, here we go. All right, so Corey Richens. And this is from Sky E. Lazaro, who I gotta say, she does not have a whole lot to work with in this case, but she is she's working hard. She's doing the best she can with what she can, and props to her for it. So all right, so let's so this is a motion to dismiss, and this is not a motion to dismiss just for nothing. This is a motion to dismiss due to prosecutorial misconduct. Now, I'm just going to say, I think that the standards on this is going to be a very, I think this is going to be a very tough sell. Trying to get it dismissed for prosecutorial misconduct, I think, is going to be hard, but yeah. So we've got a table of contents. I always like when they include a table of contents. I think this is good practice. In some areas it's required, but this is just good practice. And she's got a whole bunch of, laws she's citing, which is also a good idea. So defendant Corey Darden Richens, hereinafter Ms. Richens, by and through counsel, hereby submits this motion to dismiss due to prosecutorial misconduct. So what relief is requested? She wants all charges dismissed against her because the state has engaged in prosecutorial misconduct such that a fair trial in this case is no longer possible. Alternatively, the court should enter an order that 1. Disqualifies the Summit County Attorney's Office, 2. Changes venue from Summit County to Salt Lake County, 3. Suppresses all evidence related to the walk the dog letter, 4. And provides for a jury instruction to preclude consideration of the state's false claim that Ms. Richens had engaged in witness tampering. Now, I bet she'd like these things. Like, I think that this is very much something she should hope for. But I don't know that that actually means that she's got any real chance of this. Because, I mean, so basically what she's asking for here is, step 1, I want you to throw out the case. My client walks on a murder. And somebody says, what case are we on? We are on Corey Richens. So the Corey Richens, who is accused of murdering her husband via a fentanyl overdose, she then wrote a book about dealing with grief as a parent and as kids. And so based on that, based on the experience of her husband dying of an overdose, she wrote a book saying, here's how you can deal with grief, kids. And that's a hell of a thing when now she's accused of having murdered him, specifically with fentanyl. And the state's case is actually pretty good from what I've seen. It seems like they've got a flipped witness, and that flipped witness almost certainly is the person who sold her the fentanyl, which, is a starting point for this is pretty rough for the defense case. Like if you've got a witness that says, hey, I actually sold the murder weapon to the accused murderer, that's a very good piece of evidence, right? That's excellent for the government. I would very much hate to defend a case where that is the evidence against me, right? Because that's pretty rough. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean a whole lot, but as a starting point, it's pretty good. But there's also a whole bunch of financial issues and financial difficulties and so forth. So she was apparently trying to get a hold of his money. There's issues with regards to changing his will and changing his beneficiaries. All of those things have a real tendency to convince a jury that there was a financial motive. And motive isn't strictly necessary to prove a murder, right? Or anything, right? You don't necessarily need a motive. People commit weird, senseless acts all the time. This is something that just happens for, people get killed for literally no reason sometimes. People steal things for literally no reason. All sorts of these things just happen. But motive helps. Motive helps convince the jury that this is the person who actually did it. If there's a juror who's kind of wondering whether or not this was something that was actually a murder, or then motive can help convince them that there was a reason why something would have been done intentionally. Similarly, if you've got a situation where people are just kind of not sure, the evidence is not, necessarily the best. Motive can actually get you to, or can convince the jury that, yeah, this was actually, that this was a murder. So, motive is great, but it doesn't get and the thing is at the end of the day, motive is also not necessarily enough, right? If all the prosecution has is motive, then the prosecution, I expect, would lose. There's lots of people who might want to kill somebody, especially somebody famous. Like if you were to pick out, Trump or Biden, either, there's probably dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens and so forth of people who have posted things online about how they would like to kill either of those politicians. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they did, right? Probably most of them have pretty ironclad alibis, like being in another state at the time, you know. So motive is not enough, but motive can help get you to enough in combination with other evidence. And the motive evidence on this one is really good. But the other thing that you get to is issues of what we call post-offense conduct. And, often murders and so forth are proven just based on the things that happened before, right? Like, we have video that shows the accused going into this house. The neighbors hear a gunshot shortly thereafter. And then we have video that shows the accused coming out, dragging a rolled up carpet. And later we find the body in that same rolled up carpet, right? That's really good evidence. But all of that is, or at least that's sort of during the offense. But you can have post-offense conduct, like somebody who is found, where you've got a situation where somebody goes back to the crime scene and cleans it. Or somebody who starts, right after the crime is committed, flees. They leave the jurisdiction and they travel to, another state or another province or another country. You can say, well, that suggests that you knew you were guilty, right? Because why would you flee the country if you weren't guilty, right? So this is kind of the problem. And so cover-ups afterwards can really help prove that you were involved in the crime in the first place. Sometimes people get convicted largely on the basis of their cover-ups and their statements and so forth. So what is going on in this case? Well, we're talking about this walk the dog letter. And this walk the dog letter is alleged by the prosecution. And we went over that letter in a previous stream. And I think that the prosecution makes a pretty good case for what they're trying to argue here. The prosecution has alleged that that essentially this walk the dog letter is a message to her mother as to how to help suppress, how to create a false narrative, essentially. And so with the creating a false narrative, that's very powerful post-offense conduct. Why would you engage in witness tampering, which is what the prosecution is alleging, if you didn't think you needed to, right? If you thought you were innocent. So the other problem is once you have allegations of witness tampering, if the jury finds that to be credible, if the jury finds that you were making a real concentrated effort to tamper with witnesses to get them to present a false narrative on your side, well, now you've got a problem with every witness you want to call, because what the jury's going to think is any witness who's testifying on your behalf is just doing so because you told them to. So they want the case thrown out because people will have heard about this witness tampering thing, or they want to change a venue. And I don't know if Salt Lake County is a better venue, but, they want to change a venue. You probably have to ask for the change of venue if you're claiming that the jurors have been tainted. But they also want to suppress all evidence relating to this walk the dog letter. So they want that kept out, and they want the jury to be told not to consider witness tampering. That witness tampering didn't happen. They can't consider that. That Ms. Richens is, a saint, and this never happened. I don't think they're going to get any of this, but they're going to ask for it. So my prediction at this stage is that they will not get any of this at all. But if they're going to get any of it, I think that the only thing they might get would be the change of venue. And I think that is super unlikely, but they're going to try. So on May 31st, 2023, the state filed a motion for gag order, which asked the court for the imposition of a gag order in response to the unanticipated and overwhelming media interest in this case. See motion for gag order at 1, attached as Exhibit A. The state argued that the requested relief was necessary to protect Ms. Richens' right to a fair trial in a court of law, not in the court of public opinion, and highlights the importance of avoiding pretrial tainting of the jury pool. So they say this case should be tried in the court of law on the basis of relevant and admissible evidence, not in the court of public opinion on the basis of uninformed or inaccurate sensation, rumor, and hearsay. In particular, they do not want things like this. They don't want us commenting on this case. But tough. Here I am. I get to comment on this. And the court actually doesn't even have jurisdiction over me. Like if this court said, hey, Mr. Runkle, you have to stop making videos about this case. I could be like, or I have a secondary proposal, a backup proposal, which is go F yourself. And I would be in the right because that court has no jurisdiction over me. So they get a gag order. And the gag order is an interesting thing because the gag order protects against like the parties talking to the press, but it doesn't protect the press from doing press things, right? It doesn't protect against the press like attending the court and talking about what happened, and it doesn't protect against the court against the press like pulling documents. And yeah, so this actually happens there. In this case, observation of the defendant's presumption of innocence and protection against pretrial tainting of the jury pool should be paramount. The state also acknowledged that the circumstance of this case, particularly as it relates to media coverage from global media outlets, dramatically increases the risk of tainting the jury pool. Now, I am not I'm not a global media outlet, I don't think, but you can watch this from around the globe. But I mean, we got 683 people watching right now. I don't know if that counts as a global media outlet. But the Summit County Attorney's Office has been contacted by numerous global media outlets, including in alphabetical order and among others, ABC, BBC, CNN, Court TV, the Daily Mail, Dateline, Good Morning America, the Buffington Post. What the hell is the Buffington Post? Do they mean the Huffington Post? It says Buffington. Now, the Buffington Post sounds like a porn parody of the Huffington Post. So they gotta mean Huffington. That yeah, Buffington. It's gotta be Huffington Post, and because otherwise it's a porn parody, right? There's I just don't see that. Inside Edition, ITV from Great Britain, NBC, News Nation, the New York Times, Paramount, People, Rolling Stone, Telemundo, the Washington Post, and USA Today. At least 4 filmmaking organizations on this continent and in Western Europe have expressed their interest to produce a documentary. So, a quick Google search reveals that exponentially more media outlets have already reported on this matter. In addition to the outlets listed above, these include, but are not limited to, AP News, CBS, Entertainment Tonight, Euronews, Fox News, The Independent, Insider, New York Daily News, The New York Post, Oxygen, The Toronto Sun. Hey, Canada gets in there. Yahoo News, etc., etc., etc. This in the first weeks after the matter was filed. Working class Canadian paper makes good. On June 2nd, 2023, in response to the state's motion for gag order, the court entered an order that, inter alia, requires compliance with Rule 3.6 of the Utah Rules of Professional Conduct, the gag order. Among other things, the gag order prohibits the lawyers in this case from making any extrajudicial statement. Extrajudicial statement is a key word here. Extrajudicial. What does that mean? Out of court. Because you can say typically anything in court, right? That the lawyer knows or reasonably should know will be disseminated by means of public communication and will have a substantial likelihood of materially prejudicing an adjudicative proceeding in its matter, i.e., don't talk to the press, right? You can talk to your buddy, you can talk to your coworkers, you can discuss the case with your colleagues while you're out getting beers, but you can't go and do a press conference. So the state publicly accuses Ms. Richens of witness tampering while admitting it has no evidence that such a crime committed. So on September 15th, the state filed a document titled the Walk the Dog letter on the public docket in this case. The state did not file the letter pursuant to any rule of civil procedure or rule of criminal procedure, i.e. they weren't required to, but they were making an application. It was being brought as part of an application to prevent her from speaking to anybody, basically. They also filed a police report on the public docket. Police reports are not admissible evidence, stating police reports lack the necessary earmarks of reliability and trustworthiness and are therefore inadmissible. I think that's funny. Just let's break this part down, right? Police reports lack the necessary earmarks of reliability and trustworthiness. That's the police. Cheers, right? All right. So, the police report describes a search of Ms. Richens' cell, the discovery of the Walk the Dog letter, and the contents of the Walk the Dog letter. The police report states the Walk the Dog letter was folded and placed in the middle of a book located in Ms. Richens' cell. However, it does not appear to have any crease marks that would indicate the letter was ever folded. Okay, that's an argument. I can see that's a place to argue. Cool. If you're arguing that the police report is false, that is, that's an interesting argument. Now, I'd want to see the original paperwork because you can fold a piece of paper and it doesn't necessarily show up in a photocopy, right? I have photocopied lots of previously folded, or scanned lots of previously folded documents, and they don't necessarily come up. All right, I suspect we've got some minor trolling in there. ADHD, and I don't quite test high enough to score as autistic, or at least didn't when I was a kid. But I haven't actually gotten tested as an adult. I'm tempted to, so maybe. I just don't know. The police report also omits a critical fact, namely that the WTD letter was physically bound to notes from Ms. Richens to her counsel. This was not communicated to defense counsel until October 2nd, 2023, when defense counsel specifically asked about the notes during a Zoom conference with counsel for the state. So, in an email following the Zoom conference, the state confirmed the notes had the word sky at the top and were bound with glue as if ripped from a notebook or legal pad to the 6-page Walk the Dog letter. Okay, that's interesting. So I think this is getting a little more interesting. It's saying this is from the same, because when you're dealing with like a notepad and there's glue along the top, right, that holds all the pages together. If you rip off several pages at once, often you'll get glue there that hold on to it, that sticks them together. And that's what they're saying is going on here, that this was torn off as a group of pages and that some of the other letters were clearly for counsel. The reason why this matters in a big way is that if this is from, if this was intended as solicitor-client communication, then it may be privileged, and that's a problem. So rather than finding the WTD letter hidden inside a book, as the state apparently obtained the WTD letter through a potentially illegal search of Ms. Richens' documents, which were stored in an envelope titled Sky Lazaro Attorney Privilege. See photograph of torn envelope attached hereto as Exhibit C. Now, I'm just going to say, when I am dealing with clients and they need, clients are in custody all the time, right? This happens all the time. And I see people, there's a whole bunch of people coming in from Rob's chat. We are talking about Corey Richens, who is the person accused of killing her husband with fentanyl and then writing a book about it, about how to deal with children's grief. So that's what we're looking at here. Now, her lawyer is now making an application to have the entire case thrown out. And specifically, if not thrown out, she wants to, she just wants to keep the, this walk the dog letter out. And the walk the dog letter, I think, is extremely dangerous. So, the Summit County Sheriff's Office Custody Manual includes clear limitations on the search of legal documents. The manual provides that legal pouches may only be inspected to determine whether the pouch is being used to hide contraband. So, when I have clients who are in custody, they often need to write things down for me, right? And so I want to, I want my client to write down their version of what happened, right? Let's say my client is in custody because he got into a knife fight with somebody at a bar, right? And it's going to be really critical for me to determine who started that knife fight, who didn't want to be part of it, who was backing away, who was whatever, right? And I need my client's version of events because I need to actually be able to testify to this in order to present this to the court, right? I need to argue that my client's version of events is true. So I want my client to write down everything that they think, right? Everything that they say happened. But I don't want that ending up in the hands of the Crown prosecutors. I don't want the prosecution having that. So I am going to tell my client to write down on every single page for my lawyer and to write down, privileged for my lawyer and to put it in an envelope marked for my lawyer, Ian Runkle, just so that it was, just so that I know that this is all protected. So this matters. This is really significant here. And we've got Rob saying, hey, Ian, sorry, my recap ran long. I knew it would. That's why I started later. Hope we're jumping into friendlier content. We're jumping into murder content, but it is probably friendlier because at least we can kind of laugh a little bit about what's going on right now, as opposed to, I hear Maya was, I hear that was a little rough today. So I haven't been following that trial as much, but yeah. So knife fights are a lot less serious than some of that stuff. All right. So now the flip side of this is that sometimes, like those letters, like clients are also not necessarily, or accused people in jail are also not necessarily people who follow the rules. Because if people follow rules, they tend not to end up in jail, just as a rule, right? Just kind of as a general principle. You don't tend to end up in jail if you follow things like laws. Now, so this is, they are possibly inclined to hide things like drugs or weapons or all sorts of things in those pouches, right? Like in their legal pouches. Because if you tell them, listen, there is one place the guards are not going to search. Well, of course, that is where the drugs go, right? So this basically says they can search it just for drugs or just for contraband. And contraband can be all sorts of things, right? Contraband might be a shiv, might be a cell phone, might be drugs, but it can also be stuff like lipstick, all of those things. So, yeah, and like Crest white strips, contraband. So that's why they can search it. And I think this is important. But in addition to the walk the dog letter, the state also filed a motion for no contact. And of course, those things were being filed together, right? The whole walk the dog letter was being filed to support the motion for no contact. It's evidence that no contact should be imposed. And they say the opening sentence of the motion states a no contact order is necessary to prevent defendant from further engaging in witness tampering. And they add that's emphasis added. The state has never charged Ms. Richens with witness tampering, much less convicted her of such a crime. But they're allowed to accuse her of it, right? In its motion, the state admits it is currently unclear whether Ms. Richens ever disclosed the WTD letter or its contents to Lisa Darden or anyone else. But they do say that she disclosed another letter that they, were concerned about. So the state's motion also references yet another letter that defendant held up during a video conference with her mother. So, yeah. So the custody manual is designated AEO and therefore is not attached as an exhibit. I'm not sure what AEO stands for, but I think it just means like it is not for public release. So, yeah. However, the state admits it does not know the contents of the September 13th letter, stating the lender was not found in the defendant's cell. They say that there's a strong inference that it was destroyed or flushed, but they don't have any evidence to support that. And that's fair. I see people saying attorney's eyes only. Fair enough. But the reason why that would be attorney's eyes only is because it would be in some fashion confidential or privileged. That's why that would be attorney's eyes only. And usually what they don't want is they don't want to release documents that indicate how guards do how they do fundamental things like cell searches, because if you're doing cell searches and you tell people what your principles are for doing cell searches, well, that's really useful if you happen to be an inmate who wants to avoid getting caught by a cell search, right? That makes your life a lot easier. It's like, oh, well, they search on Tuesdays. Better not do anything on Tuesday. So that is, that's why they leave that out. So, and I see somebody saying, why is it called Walk the Dog? It actually had Walk the Dog written on it in big freaking letters. So that's why they call it the Walk the Dog letter. All right. So within minutes of the state filing the Walk the Dog letter and motion for no contact, defense counsel began receiving requests for comment from media outlets. Now, this does not surprise me. If you're wondering how this, why they would get stuff within minutes, well, media outlets will have things set up to just track and to see if there's any changes. Like if anything new is filed, they want to see it immediately, right away. And so as soon as that happens, somebody's going to get an email saying there is a new document. And of course, they're going to reach out immediately, probably even before they've read the actual document. They're going to reach out to try to ask for comment because you want to be first, right? You want to get first in the, in line on that. So by September 18th, countless media outlets had already reported on the Walk the Dog letter and were parroting the state's claims of witness tampering and attempts to compel false testimony. Because that's what it looks like, right? That's what it looks like. So the local and global media outlets that covered the alleged witness tampering include, but are not limited to, CNN, NBC, Fox News, CBS, ABC, People, New York Post, The Daily Beast, HuffPost, KSL, KCPW, KUTV, and Fox 13 and Runkle of the Bailey. Put me down in here. Come on, put me in there. You got to put me in there. So, argument. The court can dismiss criminal charges when prosecutorial misconduct results in a denial of due process. Now, I think this is going to be a very difficult road to travel for them, because essentially they're saying, listen, filing this document in court prevents due process. And I think that the court is going to be reluctant to say that prosecutorial misconduct includes filing documents in court. I think that's a bold claim that will find very little support. And I just dropped a thing that I wish I hadn't dropped. I'm going to have to find it later. That annoys me. I just got a new toy and I can't resist playing with it, and I am causing myself trouble by doing so. The new toy is a... I'll just show you guys. It's kind of a silly toy. I don't know if it's any good. I'll have to play around with it. I'm going to play around with it in the shop later. But, and I'm dropping more stuff. It is a little tiny, sort of little tiny engraver. And so you push the button and it spins. It's like a little micro Dremel, and I'm hoping that it will be useful for doing like edge work or some light polishing and that kind of thing. But I really need to stop playing with it because I'm now losing components to it, and I don't know where they are. And that's going to be a problem for me because I don't want to lose components for it. I might need those. I might want those. So I'm going to have to hunt that down later. I'm on a stream, but yeah. Ooh. Recovery Addict. I filed for and was granted media access on this case. I'm planning on attending in person. If you guys haven't been following, Recovery Addict has also been doing live coverage on the Maya case. So I am really curious. I want to hear like what's going down. So we'll have to check that out. So yeah, that's pretty awesome. And good to have you in the chat here, Recovery Addict. We should talk at some point. So what is it? Dismissal is warranted when prosecutorial misconduct results in the denial of due process. And they say the relevant question is whether the misconduct so infected the trial with unfairness as to make the resulting conviction a denial of due process. And so that must result in the denial of a defendant's right to a fair trial. The argument they're making here is they're saying we are denying the defendant's right to a fair trial because the jurors, the potential juror pool, will have heard about this letter, and that will have tainted them to decide that Corey Richens is guilty. Now, I just want to say, if we're already looking at a situation where people have heard that, like her dealer has ratted her out, I feel like the walk the dog letter is less serious than that. So, now they do have an example that I think is interesting. I want to look this case up. I've not read it before. It's Hensley versus United States, which they say reversed a conviction where during trial, the prosecutor filed a motion describing the defendant's breaches, conversions, kickbacks, embezzlements, and other violations of law, resulting in widespread publicity that may have tainted the jury and damaged the cause of justice. Interesting. I think that one is... I'm going to have to look that case up because that could be a very critical case on that one. So due process requires that the accused receive a trial by an impartial jury free from outside influences, including pretrial publicity. The theory of our system is that the conclusions to be reached in a case will be induced only by evidence and argument in open court and not by any outside influence, whether in private talk or public print. Now, I think that this is becoming more and more difficult in the modern era. In the modern era, we have so much news coverage, and it can really get out there really quickly. Anything that is said might be across the world and around the world in minutes, like literally minutes. But this is also not the first time that there's been major coverage of some sort of ongoing event. And I still keep poking around to see if I can find the thing I dropped, and it seems to be gone. This is not the first time there's been major coverage of some kind of trial. When we look at Lindbergh and Loeb, there was so much coverage. When we look at all of the things that we talk about as trials of the century, which we're going to get back to when we can, but there's going to be some, there were massive calls, and in some cases there were active protests. And like when we look at now I'm trying to remember the name, Burke and Hare, not only were there active protests, but there were people actually trying to murder the person who wasn't executed. So all sorts of possibilities on this. So oh, and this is cool. Recovery Addict, thanks again for any experience you might have had as either an ASL interpreter, TTY operator, or sports announcer. We appreciate the Zoom relays. Don't want to overload Zoom. I'm super curious about that. So yeah. All right. Now, the problem is that you can almost always find some jurors. And the thing is that jurors on high profile trials tend to be people who, how do I put this? They tend to be people who live under a rock. Like when you are trying to find, or they're just people who are like, you know what? I saw some coverage, but I haven't actually made up my mind. With the Depp trial, there was a whole bunch of people who were like, sure, I've seen some Depp movies, but I don't really care that much. And that's pretty common. You'll get people who say, listen, I've heard about this murder trial, but I haven't made up my mind. Really common. On the jury you go. But you're also going to get other people who are like, no, I'm pretty sure she's guilty. And those people get removed. So if something is really famous, then you just remove the people who've made up their mind. So, all right, legal trials are not like elections to be won through the use of the meeting hall, the radio, and the newspaper. That's got to be an old decision. Oh, that was from 2003. No, wait, that was from 1941. I knew that one was going to be an old decision just by the language of it. So basically saying, hey, adverse publicity can be so severe as to create a presumption of juror prejudice. But the thing is the adverse publicity, I think this case this issue is going to fall on the basis of the adverse publicity predates this walk the dog motion. And the adverse publicity was largely created by the accused's own book. So I don't think this is really going to be like, oh, the publicity on the walk the dog letter was so critical. No, I think they're going to say, this is a minor element in that larger story. Here, the state has violated Ms. Richens' due process rights by falsely and publicly declaring she is guilty of witness tampering. Making matters worse, the state attempted to support its false narrative by filing inadmissible evidence, including a police report on the court's public docket. The state's misconduct has resulted in widespread publicity such that a fair trial is no longer possible. I think that the fair trial is no longer possible is a high standard, and a judge is going to be very reluctant to throw out a case in a situation where you have somebody who's charged with murder, like not shoplifting, not minor vandalism, not getting into a bar fight, planned deliberate, intentional, repeated efforts murder, where the state has a pretty good case. Like, this is a pretty good prima facie case. I think that the defense has a very hard road to go here. So they're saying dismissal is warranted on the authority cited above. Prosecutors have a heightened ethical duty. This is just generally true. Prosecutors are not in the perfect world. Prosecutors are not just there to seek a conviction. And what is typically stated, like typically people will say the job of the defense lawyer is to get their client an acquittal or the best possible result if an acquittal is not possible. And that the prosecution's job is to seek the highest sentence they can and a conviction. And this is not the case. The prosecutor's job is to seek justice. And justice sometimes, when it's, when you've got an ethical prosecutor, sometimes seeking justice can mean things like, I am not pursuing this case. I had a prosecutor at one point who said, listen, I spoke to this witness, and they had 3 witnesses to this particular offense. They said, I spoke to this witness. I don't think this witness is any good. I think this witness is a terrible witness. They said, listen, I'm not going to be calling this evidence. I don't want to call this witness. However, if you want to cross-examine this witness, I will call this witness, ask them no questions, and then sit down and let you cross-examine because you might want to make use of this witness. And I was like, now we can just let this witness go. And the witness went home, and ultimately client was acquitted because there were 2 witnesses and they couldn't agree on anything. But the prosecutor saying, I don't think this witness is accurate and reliable or honest, and so I don't think they should be in court, is a proper use of prosecutorial discretion. I have had prosecutors midway through a trial say, you know what? I think it would be an injustice if the court were to convict here. I am not proceeding any further. We're done. Even if they think that they could actually get a conviction, they're like, this judge might convict, but that would be wrong. So a prosecutor has the responsibility of a minister of justice and not simply that of an advocate. This responsibility carries with it specific obligations to see that the defendant is accorded procedural justice and that guilt is decided upon the basis of sufficient evidence. The other place you will actually see this happen all the time is where you've got somebody who's self-represented, where they're just running the trial on their own. And you'll see the prosecutor do things like, well, my friend, or the accused needs to bring an application for this. Let's get, here, let me explain to you how you bring this application. Or in some cases, they may just say, ordinarily, I would expect an application for this with notice, but because they're self-represented, we'll just let them go ahead and do it, right? Because, yeah, it's they want to make sure people get a fair trial, ideally. So, consistent with this heightened duty, prosecutors are prohibited from making a public statement that the prosecutor knows or reasonably should know will have a substantial likelihood of materially prejudicing the criminal proceeding or heightening public condemnation of the accused. Now, this is public statements, extrajudicial statements is what this refers to. But what they're talking about is not an extrajudicial statement. Extrajudicial means outside of court. What they're referring to instead is a statement within court, right? An actual statement within court where they were filing a public document. That's so different. So yeah, I think this is going to be a bit of an issue for them. However, they say prosecutors are prohibited from using the court's record to circumvent the ethical rules and standards governing public or extrajudicial statements. And so in this case, what they're trying to suggest is that the purpose for this motion wasn't just to get the motion heard, but also was for the purpose of making sure that this goes to the court. And that, I think, is going to be a tough sell, right? Because they say a lawyer participating in a criminal matter should not place statements or evidence into the court record or into a document that is deemed an open record under applicable law solely for the purpose of circumventing this standard. Solely is doing a ton of heavy lifting here. Solely is a big word there, right? And so what does it mean solely? Well, solely is if you've got a legitimate purpose. The fact that it also puts something into the public record is not going to be an issue. So the question then, really, this comes down to a standard of, was this frivolous? Was it frivolous for them to make this filing? And I don't think it was frivolous at all. Ooh. Hello, sir. I got to ask, have you had something to eat?
I have.
Okay, good, because people will give me so much grief if I bring you on and you have not had something to eat, because
I know, but I wanted to give context. I jumped in for like 10 minutes before I go into the shop and do a little like shop stream stuff. People are asking what the walk the dog letter is. May I share?
Yes, absolutely.
I took the liberty of highlighting the exhibit.
Oh, nice.
This is the walk the dog letter. As you can see, the top of the letter, walk the dog, but take vague notes so you remember. This is a case that Ian and I have been covering. And Ian said, when I heard he was covering this motion, I was like, oh, is this Richens? No, the context is so significant.
Well, I did talk about the letter, but like, this letter is such a weird letter. And the other weird thing about this is that she's claiming that this was part of a book. And we went over this letter, and it is so hard to claim that this is part of a book.
Oh, yeah. So when the letter is referring to she, it's often the prosecutor. When it's referring to Ronnie, that is her defense attorney. So however she wants to link Eric getting drugs and Finn's from Mexico. So we need some kind of connection. Here's what I'm thinking. But you have to talk to Ronnie, defense counsel. He would probably have to testify to this, but it's super short. Not a lot to it. He'll need to tell Sky at the meeting next week.
Sky's defense counsel. Yep.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Ronnie's the witness. Sky's counsel.
Yeah. Ronnie is her brother, isn't it?
Yeah. Upon information and belief, just like they say, going on, then you have asterisks. Reword this however he needs to make the point. Just include it all. The connection has to be made with Mexico and drugs. Ronnie will have
why
the
would you
messages
put
to
this
prove
in
it.
your book, right? Why would your book include go talk to my actual real world defense lawyer?
It doesn't. He can be short and to the point, but has to be done upon information and belief. LOL. Oh my God.
And I just also want to say, if I had a client who's charged with literally any crime, but especially murder, and they were like, I am writing a book starring me about the murder, I would just be like, hold on, don't finish that thought. We are right now in a room where we've got glass between the two of us. I need to ask them to move us to a room where there isn't a glass divider so I can slap the stupid out of you.
Yeah. Highlight it again. Tell Ronnie, don't overanalyze it. It was a quick 2-minute conversation, LOL. Tell him I need him to do this. Bring me home, and then we will get those damn bitches, end quote. Also, please text Lotto or call. Tell him to not text me anything about us doing things together ever. We're so close to the end. Let's push through. Side note at the bottom, is this a footnote? This is a footnote, right? Footnote.
Yeah.
Footnote. Take vague notes of all of this so you remember before you walk the dog.
Oh.
Remember, I told you, one way to get at Katie, the sister of the decedent, the person who passed, is going through my phone and finding a picture of her girls with the boys. Well, that sounds like witness intimidation if I have ever seen a comment that could be closer.
Oh man, if that's another comment where it's like, if my client made a statement like that, I would be livid. Like, just, oh my God, what the hell is wrong with you? And
Well, this
oh,
one, print 15 copies and send them out anonymously to different media companies. Obviously, don't email the pictures so it's not traceable.
yeah, anything you're doing, with respect to a murder trial where you have to say so it's not traceable, that is already a bad idea.
Yeah, she would be livid if it got out to the public. No shit. You would just have to do it sneakily and be careful. She would try and trace it back to you. If not, no worries.
Do
Have
nothing
Selma talk.
sneakily when you've got murder charges.
Oh, I know. Have Selma talk to Eric in Spain, not being able to drink. So he was looking for drugs the entire time and explain the drink the waitress gave him. How I called his doctor. Lastly, don't forget to work on the gun receipts. We want to file charges and let the prosecutor not do anything about it to use in our defense.
Oh,
You have thought.
yeah. That letter is just, I mean, there's a reason why they want to keep this letter out.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's coming
this
in.
story of like, hey, this letter is just from her book. It's like, what is this book called? Like, If I Did It?
While I'm on charge, while I'm on charges for doing it, if I did it while I'm being charged for doing it, before I'm acquitted of doing it, if I did it while I'm being charged for doing the thing, let me give you a narrative of how I might have done the thing.
I'm just gonna say, like, if I am charged with a murder, if I'm writing any sort of book, it's going to be a book about like how kittens baked a cake. Like,
And wait. Is there a chapter about how the kittens baked the file into the cake? Because you might want to leave that out.
no file cake. Just like,
No file cake?
delicious cake that they're gonna be giving to the cute puppies.
No C4 cake?
No C4 cake. It's gonna be
Okay.
everything is sweetness and light and like completely beyond reproach. Like, I am writing a kid's book about like how sugar and syrup fell in love. Like, it's gonna be the sweetest, most saccharine thing ever on the planet.
And FYI, to the point that Ian was making earlier, just because you write in all bold letters on top of an envelope, attorney's eyes only.
Yeah.
The jail, think about this logically, just logically for a second. If every inmate could write attorney's eyes only on anything, say, for example, a sheath that holds a knife, if I could write on the cover of that sheath, attorney's eyes only, would that preclude the bailiff or the jailer or the sheriff from saying, well, this thing that looks remarkably like a sheath has attorney's eyes only on it, so I can't open it?
Yeah.
No.
It's and I was making the point of like, you can't just hide your drugs in a letter that says "for my lawyer."
Yes, good
Because,
example.
Similarly, a lawyer can't bring in like an envelope saying solicitor-client privilege that contains like a hacksaw and a gun and like a map of escape routes. because that would be dumb, right? Actually, here in Edmonton, we had a lawyer who was convicted after he brought in a package, which he told the jailers was solicitor client protected, which turned out to contain drugs. So that
Yeah.
lawyer was convicted on that, and because as it turns out, they can still look for drugs in that. And the other thing, for a while, they were really upset whenever you'd go to visit whenever you'd go to visit a client at the remand center, they would get really, really upset if you had staples. So they would actually make you take the staples out of everything you were bringing. And the reason why is because some of the inmates were using the staples for tattooing needles.
Oh my God. That's so creepy, but also I can see that happening.
I mean, you could totally see it, right? It's like it's just a sharp piece of metal, right? So they're saying you can't bring any staples, and I'm going like everything is stapled because we like things to stick together. And they're like, nope, rubber bands or binder clips but not staples.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Yeah,
was just
I
like,
can see that. Yeah.
oh my God.
But I just jumped on it for a second. I wanted to say hi. It's been a long day. I was halfway through eating. I'm gonna get back to eating.
That is good.
But I wanted to give context to the walk the dog letter because it honestly, you have to when you're hearing the motion arguments, you have to put the letter in context because when you're hearing it, it like makes sense until you realize what the letter is.
The
So I
letter
just wanted
is
to add
so
in.
damaging, right? And
Oh,
you're right. The context is important here because when they're saying like, "Oh, it was inappropriate to file this," I'm like, this is kind of necessary to support
this
the
is
whole.
pretty
Because,
significant.
well, like an application to prevent somebody from communicating with their family members is
Yeah.
not something the court is going to grant for nothing, right? It's not something they're going to be like, "Oh, prosecution wants to prevent this person from speech." Are there any constitutionally protected rights that deal with speech?
Just one, like just one, like the first one, the big one, the first one.
Yeah, just like I mean, it's been described as in many ways the most important right. People argue over which one's the most important, but like freedom of speech is arguably it's the one that lets you tell people you even have rights. So it's pretty
Yep.
important.
Yep.
The
All
courts
right.
aren't going to suspend that for nothing.
I know.
So you got to bring something because something is, not nothing. Oh, and people are saying, where did the tie go? I will tell people where the tie went. I had a big court day, and I will tell people about the court day, but I wore the tie
Yep.
because, of course, I did.
Yep. It's a lucky
So
tie.
that's why the tie is not up there. I will put the tie back up there once I sort of, I think I actually like sent it to be washed, but um, it's gonna go
Good.
back up there
Good.
because yeah, get have some food. We're, I also just realized I can't do Trials of the Century this Wednesday, but
That's
you're still in
I've
the.
got
You're
I'm
still
knee deep. I'm knee deep in Maya recaps, and we are in the plaintiff is at a razor's edge as far as their timeline, their time is concerned. They have 8 hours left on the clock, and they have like
ooh.
10 days of testimony left. So they need to do like 5 minute cross. They need to pass on witnesses. And I am screaming. I am asking for the plaintiffs to give me a button to a shock collar that they install on Attorney Anderson's like hip that I can press from my office and be like, sit down, like stop asking, sit down.
Now I haven't been watching it in a whole lot of detail, but didn't they almost get like an allegation of SA against Maya in today?
It it was very complicated. There were allegations after the case commenced, after they impaneled the jury, that Maya reports that something occurred to her in the hospital that would constitute SA. And it was after the pleadings, not included in the pleadings, and after they impaneled the jury. And the judge said, I will give you a mistrial to start back at the beginning. But
that's expensive.
And they pose the question, and this is something the chat fights with me on. This is a question that goes to Maya, and the question that she has of whether she wants to go back to the beginning, include this and litigate it again, or whether she wants to proceed as it stands.
Well, and that's a rough thing to litigate on a trial that like
yes,
the world is interested in. I could see every reason why she might be like, yes, this happened, and no, I don't want it to be litigated.
Correct.
So, but I mean, if the jury heard that, even if they're told not to consider it,
They
it was out of the jury's earshot.
It was in a proffer, and it was about 20 minutes where I had to listen to the proffer, which was horrible, and then explain to the chat why, despite the fact that we heard the proffer, this can't come into the trial, which is really difficult to explain, but is ultimately the right legal choice. So, like I said, it's a tough case, man. Everyone makes mistakes.
And you can see the best part is I got the label way askew.
I love it. I love it.
That was unintentional. The other one is burn your regrets.
Yep.
I got to figure out a way to get these to you as well, because I'm really curious to hear what people think of these, because I like them.
Oh, I need it. I need it back.
And I'm just like, I hope it's not just me, right? I think they're good, and I hope it's not just like a situation where I'm like, I think this is amazing, and everyone else is like, yeah, I guess you do. Like, so.
Yeah. I can't wait. So I'm going to jump off, my friend, and
we will
eat some food
soon.
And I will
add some take care of yourself
in your
doing
honor.
those recaps is even like during the Paltrow trial, the recaps every day, whew,
I know
it takes it out of you. So this trial keeps going.
It does, and it's really hard because you're walking a tightrope, and I have the benefit of having walked that tightrope and knowing where we are. Like, I feel like if anyone tries to jump in now, it's hard, but I'm trying to walk people through. And if you guys want, like, there's a playlist of the recaps, just like there's a playlist of FNF and Monday Night Fun. So please go check out Ian's prior content. Ian and I do a lot of collaboration. We have a lot of fun. Please enjoy the rest of your evening. Ian, I'm going to bid you adieu, my friend. Cheers. Happy Monday.
Night, and happy Monday, and make sure you eat. So it's all.
I will.
Talk to
I
you
promise.
Later.
Night, folks.
Cheers. All right. So let's pull this up here. So we've got here the following categories of statements are deemed more likely than not to have a material prejudicial effect on a proceeding. This is important, right? Because this is a legal presumption. A legal presumption is something that the court has to consider, right? It establishes something that is true unless it is overturned, if that makes sense. So, one, the character, credibility, or reputation of or criminal record of a party or witness, or the expected testimony of a party or witness. This goes directly towards the credibility of potentially expected witnesses. Any opinion as to the guilt or innocence of a defendant or suspect in a criminal case or proceeding that could result in incarceration. I don't know if this one counts. Information that the defense lawyer knows or reasonably knows is likely to be inadmissible as evidence in a trial, and that would, if disclosed, create a substantial risk of prejudicing an impartial trial. They're saying that applies to the police report. So, yeah. All right. So, regardless of whether a statement is extrajudicial, a lawyer is not permitted to assert personal knowledge of facts in issue or state a personal opinion as to the credibility of a witness or the guilt or innocence of an accused. This is really common. So the lawyers are not supposed to have personal opinions. We can submit things, we can suggest things to the court. I can say, I suggest that this witness has poor credibility based on X, Y, and Z. What I can't say is, I think this witness has no credibility. That might seem like an artificial distinction to the chat, and it probably is, but that is the rules. And somebody's saying, would you be able to have a bottle of your hot sauce delivered in Edmonton? That's probably not that hard because I live in Edmonton. I am in Edmonton right now. All right. The state violated its ethical duty by falsely and publicly claiming that Ms. Richens is guilty of witness tampering. I don't know. I mean, it's the basis for their application. So, in a motion filed on the public docket, monitored closely by global media outlets, the state falsely declared that Ms. Richens is guilty of witness tampering, a crime the state is not even charged. The motion argued a no contact order is necessary to prevent Ms. Richens from further engaging in witness tampering. Now, I'm just going to note this is an ambiguous statement. Further engaging in witness tampering can be taken one of two ways. One way is from engaging in future at all. And another way is from engaging again in witness tampering. Now, in the context I initially read this in, and I'm not going to pull up the full filing there, but in the context I read this in, that sounded like engaging in future, but they're trying to make it sound like engaging again. So that is a different aspect there. Somebody's asking, is there a link to order? Not yet. I got to get that set up. Probably the first few bottles will go up. I'm going to try to auction them off during the extra live stream. So the first bottles will probably go on the extra life stream. I will get those on their way. I have some ideas as to how I might try to ship them, but I don't yet know for sure. The state's motion includes false statements and improper opinions regarding the credibility of witnesses and the guilt of Ms. Richens. So, she's never been charged with witness tampering, much less convicted of such a crime. Furthermore, even if the state's legal and factual contentions had merit, it is decidedly improper for a prosecutor to assert personal knowledge of facts and issue, or state a personal opinion as to the credibility of a witness or the guilt or innocence of an accused. But this did not stop the state from proclaiming in a public filing that Ms. Richens, this is not personal opinion, though. Personal opinion is when you are behaving as a witness. And this I don't think is behaving as a witness. This is just filing a document alleging something, right? If you are charging somebody with murder, for example, that isn't a personal opinion as to murder. And yes, I'm going to get a stream set up. I'm just going to pull up Midjourney right now, and I'm going to, so let's look at Midjourney here and go with Imagine Children's Hospital Charity live stream, no sleep. See what it gets me. All right. On a scale of Mulvaney to Brie Larson, how hot is the sauce? I think if you were to put this on the Hot Ones challenge, it would probably be like 7 or 8 on their list. It's not going to be on the Hot Ones challenge because I just don't have the capacity for that, but it would be like 70 or 8. So Ms. Richens is guilty of a crime, the nature of which undermines the legitimacy of Ms. Richens' entire defense. That is true. If somebody is guilty of witness tampering, that would undermine their entire defense because every witness that they bring up is at that point suspect. So that is, something to consider. including the credibility of any witnesses that may be called to testify on her behalf. Absolutely, this is the issue. Like, absolutely, this is the issue. The state's motion flagrantly disregards the truth and its ethical duties, all to the detriment of Ms. Richens. Moreover, the motion confirms the state does not have evidence of the very crime it claims has already occurred. The motion cites two letters, the Walk the Dog letter and the September 13th letter. However, the state acknowledges that neither letter is sufficient to support a charge of witness tampering. But it does support a suspicion, like a belief of witness tampering. So that's kind of a thing. However, the state acknowledges, indeed, the state admits it is currently unclear whether Ms. Richens ever disclosed the WTD letter or its contents to Lisa Darden or anyone else. The motion also assumes, without any basis, that the narrative advanced in the WTD letter is false. So I think that the letter itself... Oh, and we've got Rob saying, I have 5 pens to auction. I got to start a list. I got to do that right away. So I think the letter itself makes it clear that this is false testimony. I think it would be very hard to claim that this narrative is a true narrative. And frankly, I am kind of surprised that this lawyer is staying on the file, because I would have been making an application to get off this file. There are suggestions that the lawyer is now involved in this. And that's a problem. I would be getting the F off this file. And, you just say, hey, I'm getting off this file, not because I think my client is guilty, but just because the suggestion that I might be involved is a problem. Once there's a suggestion that I'm involved, I pretty much have to, I'm a potential witness. So that, I think, is, I think that's huge. I don't know how this lawyer stays on this file. And, yeah. If there's an artist out there that can add an item up to auction for Ian's fundraiser, how can they do that? Send me an email. That is definitely doable. All right. So, the September 13th letter is similarly unhelpful. And they're going to say it's unhelpful because it was, it just doesn't exist. Oh, ooh. This is not what I expected at all. Not what I expected at all. So they say that the letter was destroyed or flushed. In fact, defense counsel obtained the September 13th letter, which was not even authored by Ms. Richens, after the state filed its motion. So I want to see if the September 13th letter is an exhibit to this document, because we have a real problem here. Defense counsel obtained the September 13th letter. Well, that's critical evidence, and it's certainly not privileged because, hey, you don't have any basis to... It's not even authored by your client. There's no... Yeah. So the state filed the motion in conjunction with a letter conspicuously titled the Walk the Dog letter and a police report. Describes the search of Ms. Richens' cell, the discovery of the Walk the Dog letter, and the contents of the Walk the Dog letter. Well established that police reports are not admissible evidence because they lack reliability and trustworthiness. So a lawyer should not disclose information that the lawyer knows or reasonably should know is likely to be inadmissible as evidence in a trial, and that would, if disclosed, create a substantial risk of prejudicing an impartial trial. I mean, the Walk the Dog letter is the problem, not so much the police report. So I think that one is a little weaker. It also bears notice that the police report omits a critical fact, namely that the walk the dog letter was physically bound to notes from Ms. Richens to her counsel. Now, I'm just going to also note, and I see somebody's asking, can auction items be shipped outside of North America? Yes. That shouldn't be a problem. There's an art to reading police reports. And I say this as a defense lawyer. I've read literally hundreds of police reports, and there's an art to reading them. Actually, probably thousands now that I think about it. But police reports often selectively omit things. And sometimes you're just like, well, they didn't say that X happened, therefore X didn't happen. Right? And police are very good at leaving out shit from police reports. So when you see something is left out, what it usually means is that there's a selective omission. So defense counsel specifically asked about the notes during a Zoom conference. In an email following the Zoom conference, the state confirmed the notes had the word sky at the top and were bound with glue as if ripped from a notebook or legal pad to the 6-page walk the dog letter. Arguably, the privileged nature of the attachment makes the entire WTD letter inadmissible. I mean, you can argue all sorts of things, right? But the fact you argue something doesn't necessarily mean it's accurate. I could argue that the moon is made of cheese. Chat. The moon is made of cheese. You can see it up there. It is the color of a fine blue cheese, maybe the rind of a brie. Nobody has ever indicated that they've eaten the moon and died. So clearly the moon is made of cheese. I've made an argument. It's a crap argument. But, yeah. In this case, like, the problem you have is that just because you stick a privileged letter to a non-privileged letter doesn't make the non-privileged letter privileged. Like, privilege is not like herpes or glitter. You can't get it by rubbing up against something. Somebody's going to clip that. That was maybe not my best Runkleism, but all right. The police report also states the WTD letter was folded and placed in the middle of a book located in Ms. Richens' cell. They say it has no crease letters, and the evidence suggests it was stored in an envelope titled Sky Lazaro Attorney Privilege. This seems like the kind of thing that needs some actual evidentiary discussion. So maybe some sort of, trial on this issue, hearing on this issue, etc. So in sum, they say it constitutes a clear violation of its ethical duties. Now, they're also claiming that it violates the right to a fair trial. And they say that it's frustrated the process by which a juror can lay aside his impression or opinion and render a verdict based on the evidence presented in court. They say this is not a typical case where pretrial publicity is a natural outcome of the factual circumstances. Disagree. This is one of those exceptional cases where pretrial publicity exacerbated by state complicity would encourage the jurors to form such strong preconceived views of the defendant's guilt as to be considered inherently prejudicial against her, thereby violating her right to a fair trial by an impartial jury. And I'm just going to say, right at the outset of allegations on this one, right at the outset here, the allegation, like the newspaper headlines were like, murder, like book author turned murderer. And I'm going, how is this more prejudicial than like big headlines with like her face and the word murderer on the front of it? I feel like if somebody's going to accuse me of something, I'd much rather be accused of witness tampering than murder. But it is bad when you're accused of witness tampering in the context of a murder trial. Guys, I see the chat is giving Rob grief about Google Maps, and don't give Rob grief about Google Maps just because he is plainly wrong on that one. All right. Of relevance here, a prosecutor's opinion of guilt is much more likely to create prejudice given that his or her words carry the authority of the government and are especially persuasive in the public's eye. A court filing saying that something is, that's you think, or that, it is the government's position that witness tampering happened is not a personal opinion. I think this is very different than the situation this is intended to address is a situation where the prosecutor gets up and does a press conference. I was actually just watching the second season of Perry Mason. Anyone else watching Perry Mason? Just me, huh? Okay. It's a good show. I'm enjoying it. But like the prosecutor gets up in that one and says, this man is definitively guilty. And that's in the context of a public press statement. And I'm going, that's a problem, because at that point it is like a public statement. Whereas when it's a court filing, like when the prosecutor says, we believe, here is a filing to accuse this person of murder, then yeah, that's entirely different. I like the actor in the new Perry Mason. He was in The Americans as well. He is fantastic. He's doing great work. So they're saying that this creates misconduct. Hensley versus United States is instructive. I'm going to do a video. I am declaring this now. I will do a video on Hensley versus the United States as a non-American who is looking into this case just to say, hey, let's have a look. I also love this argument. This I would totally make if I was the prosecution. I didn't think of this one. Entire credit to Niklaus on Niklaus Staro's Trial Watch. Watch his channel. It is great. If that argument holds, all defendants will write those letters in the same manner and circumstances to get the case thrown out. Won't happen. I think there's a lot to it. So in Hensley, during the trial, the prosecutor filed a motion which referred to a letter report of a civil settlement between the defendant and the housing agency having no connection with the criminal case, and which described the defendant's breaches, conversions, kickbacks, embezzlements, and other violations of law. The motion garnered immediate and widespread publicity. Hensley said that the motion was filed knowingly and willfully by the United States attorney with the intended purpose that it would be given publicity and thus influence the jury in the criminal case. Prosecution denied this, but the Fifth Circuit determined that motive was irrelevant. Ooh, this is actually, I want to cover this case because I think it's going to be really interesting and relevant. The court concluded that even without imputing improper motive to the prosecuting officer here, we do find that it should have been apparent that for him to file this motion, with the inclusion of the self-serving and irrelevant statement of offenses and crimes not comprehended in the indictment for which Hensley was on trial, might well produce the highly unfortunate publicity that actually resulted. This is going to be the problem here. Self-serving and irrelevant. Well, is it irrelevant to their motion to prevent the accused from having meetings with her mom? No, it is exactly relevant. I think that this line causes them problems. I want to go through that case, but yeah. Also, I am being reminded, I should remind you guys to like this stream. It really does help the channel here, so please do hit the like button and it doesn't cost you anything to hit the like button. It is a free service, but yeah. And Rob says, Runkle of the Bailey is a practicing lawyer and his commentary is solid, even though we disagree from time to time, and I'm always right. Except on matters of Google Maps. On matters of Google Maps, Rob is wrong. Objectively and categorically. Although the jury was polled by the trial judge and did not indicate that they heard the news reports connected to the case, the Fifth Circuit nevertheless reversed the conviction and remanded for a new trial. For a new trial was the problem. They get a new trial, not a... So that's a problem, because the new trial doesn't help here. All right. And I see somebody saying Ian's chat is behind if you just saw that. Somebody sent it to me. In fact, my mod sent it to me and was like, you missed this. And I was like, yes, I did. Shame. The state's false claims of guilt supported by inadmissible evidence filed on the public docket compromises this seems like the same thing that they just said. So the state has conceded that there's overwhelming media interest that poses a right or a threat to a right to a fair trial. Fair enough. And nonetheless, they filed this document, and with the conspicuous title, Walk the Dog Letter. What else would they call it? You're calling it the Walk the Dog Letter. So, motion for no contact, which concludes that she's guilty of witness tampering, which she hasn't charged. Okay. Police report. This is getting kind of duplicative. Are they going to make new points here? I don't know. Nope, no new points here. Conclusion. We want them to throw everything out. Now, I'm just going to say, people throw shit at defense lawyers. I think if I was the defense lawyer, I would be getting off this file. But this defense lawyer has chosen not to. They believe that they don't have to get off this file. And this defense lawyer is fighting this tooth and nail. And that is their ethical obligation. So this is the envelope. Sky Lazaro, attorney privilege. And you can see it's got tears in it. It's probably even a little battered. I am just going to say, and here's another exhibit of, letter was intended to instruct to testify falsely. Allegedly tried to give mother to give false testimony. So again, allegedly. More news articles. Yeah. People give defense lawyers a lot of shit. And I am a defense lawyer. So I am going to come to the defense of defense lawyering as a thing. Defense lawyers have a different set of ethical obligations than the prosecutors. The prosecutors are required to seek justice. And sometimes that means that they are required to, they don't really have a client. The government isn't their client. The public isn't their client. They don't really have a client other than just the concept of justice. And defense lawyers do have a client. As a defense lawyer, my client is the accused, and I am required to represent my client's interests. And people are like, well, what if it's in society's interests against that? And I'm like, F society. That's not my job. Society is not my job as a defense lawyer. My job as a defense lawyer is to be the only person in that courtroom who gives a crap about my client and who is there to try to represent my client's interests, because everyone else in that courtroom doesn't care. People say, what if you think my client is guilty or your client is guilty? Well, I can think lots of things, but it's still the government's job to prove it. And part of why it's important for defense lawyers to hold the government to that, to say, prove it, is that the government, the police, the prosecutors, etc., should be good at their job. Good at their job, right? They need to, when they're bringing somebody through those doors of the courtroom to charge them with murder, they should have the evidence to say, we can prove this beyond a reasonable doubt. It shouldn't be a matter of just getting lucky. And if defense counsel is going to make the conclusion that their client is guilty and stop defending them or throw them under the bus, then really the prosecutors are at that point empowered to just get lucky. Like, hey, we got the right person by accident. We didn't have the evidence to prove it. So good thing the defense lawyer is now confirming that this person is guilty. That is not how this should go. The other thing is, I am not a judge. It is not my job to sit in judgment of my client. That's the judge's job, right? We got a whole name for that. The person who judges my client is the judge. And so I don't get to sit in the judge's chair. I don't get to be judge. Only the judge does. I have to defend my client. And this is important. The other thing is, I know my client. If I tell my client, listen, if I think you're guilty, I'm going to throw you under the bus. My client is never going to be honest with me about what happened. And I need to know honestly what happened in order to defend them. You know how many clients think they're guilty and aren't? I've had a lot of clients be like, yeah, I'm guilty. I punched that guy in the face. And I'm like, but why did you punch the guy in the face? And they're like, oh, I'm just guilty. Like, let's get it over with. Let's plead it out. And I'm like, or tell me why you punched the guy in the face. And they're like, well, I punched the guy in the face because he punched me 3 times first. And I wanted him to stop punching me. And I'm like, oh, that means you're innocent, right? The guy attacked you first and you only used enough force to get him to stop attacking you. You are innocent, sir. And they're like, what? How can I be innocent? I punched the guy in the face. And I'm like, you were entitled to punch him in the face. You were allowed. It was a good thing you punched him. Society says that the appropriate thing for you to do in that case is punch him in the face. And sometimes clients are just like, what? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Punch that dude. This has happened in situations where the dude who's getting punched was a cop. I had a case where the police officer decided he was going to arrest somebody. And the basis for arresting my client was that he was indigenous and near a crime. And I mean, that might have been good enough for this cop. It's not good enough for society, right? Society doesn't say that police officers get to arrest people because they're near a crime and the wrong race. So the cop comes up to my client and says, you're under arrest. And my client says, what the F did I do? And the police officer tells him, and he says, I didn't do that. And so the cop comes up and is like trying to arrest him. And I mean, this is dangerous legally for the client to resist. I just want to say that right now. Because if the police officer has good reason to arrest you, even if that reason is false, even if that reason is not true, but it's a good reason from the position of the police officer, then that arrest can be valid. But in this case, the arrest was not valid because the only reason the police officer had was guy is the wrong race and too close to a crime. So, anyway, my guy is like, I'm not getting arrested. And the police officer comes up and tries to take him to the ground and starts, starts laying some hands on him in the process. He's giving him giving him the gear. And this guy punches the cop back several times and ends up getting arrested and charged with the original charges, and also charged with assault peace officer. Now, the original charges end up going away because the original charges were just they had no evidence. But now he's stuck with this charge of assault peace officer, and he says, "I'm guilty. I punched that cop a bunch of times." And the thing is he wasn't guilty. He needed a good defense lawyer to be there and say, "Actually, though, you aren't guilty. We should fight this." And I can tell you, we fought that trial. We won that trial. We won it. We won that trial. And he was innocent. So yeah, this is the Corey Richens motion. People have asked me for my prediction on this. Prediction. If I have to put money on this, Corey Richens gets none of this. None of what she's asking for. But if she gets anything, I predict it's that she'll be getting a the moot change of venue. I don't think they're going to throw this trial out. So and I see, did he resemble the person who actually committed the crime? Good for you and your client. We don't know. We don't actually know who committed the crime. It was just crime got committed and then arrest native guy. So yeah. All right. So let's cover some super chats here, and then I'm going to cover a transcript. So, I got to swoop. People will give me so much grief if I don't swoop. By the way, I'm working on a new dog swoop. I found some video. It might be a great new dog swoop. I gotta create a new dog swoop. So before I do super chats, I got to tell you a story about Zora. So, I was going and taking a nap today because I'm working from home and it's a hard day, and I like to take a nap for lunch. I recommend it entirely. But Zora was off doing Zora things, and Zora was running around the house. But when I'm going downstairs, Zora sees that I'm going to have a nap, and Zora comes running, and she's like, ooh, I want to. So I go and I climb into the bed to have a nap, and Zora comes and just bounces up and just like immediately rolls over and snuggles up against me. And it was the cutest freaking thing. Zora just loves hanging out with me so long as Mrs. Runkle is not home. And some people have said, can you let Zora in? Mrs. Runkle is home. I can tell you where Zora is right now, and that is she's with Mrs. Runkle. And if I call Zora right now and say, Zora, come hang out, Zora is gonna say, nah, bro. I'm hanging out with Mrs. Runkle because she quite properly likes Mrs. Runkle better than she likes me. And that's fair. I like Mrs. Runkle a lot too. So yeah. And I'm just having some hot sauce here. All right. So Rosie Neufeld says, hey, Ian, thanks for starting my week off right. Hey, thank you, Rosie. Much appreciated. Charlotte de Roche, thank you very much for the membership anniversary there. Judy, you got this. Daughter starts streaming for Extra Life. Awesome. Shoot me a link. I will throw a donation her way. Summer Butterfly, thank you very much for the member anniversary. Much appreciated. Rachel Dewick, dealing with a head cold, but glad I could make it. I'm glad you could make it. Not so glad about the head cold, but glad you're here. Caitlin Moore, thank you for the YouTube membership. Much appreciated. Rachel Dewick, thank you so much for 5 gifted memberships. Much appreciated. Joey Jones Donnelly just donated. Hope they get you the plaque. I hope so too. We'll have to keep working at it. Canonical Heat, thank you so much for 20 gifted memberships. Much appreciated. Robin Shermantine, L&L done for tonight. Glad I made it in time. Glad you made it too. I scheduled it a little later because I knew Rob was going to be going and probably running a little long. Chase P says, assuming the CPC gets a majority, is it likely they will/could undo all of the liberal gun legislation? They could. Will they is the question, and I hope they will. But what I hope they would do is a complete overhaul of our gun legislation. Not just a reversal, but an overhaul entirely. On a side note, the NDP ejecting someone for saying something non-controversial recently, lol, serves as a warning to other useful idiots within their ranks and the people they supposedly represent. I don't know what this is about, but the NDP are kind of behaving a little clowny. So, hi, Erica. Hello, Erica. I see Wood Daddy Stacks Raid. Welcome aboard. I've got a little scotch in my wine glass now. Lawn Lumber. Hey, Ian. Sorry, my recap ran long. Hope we're jumping into friendlier content. I think so. Like knife fights, etc. Lol. Donate to Extra Life equals embarrass corporations. I'm in. I think that's the best way to be. When I worked on a ship, we had random cabin inspections, and one captain would basically toss the whole room, and you'd be left to clean it up. And that was where we were voluntarily. Oof. I'm always curious about life on ships because it looks kind of rough. Law and Lumber, thank you so much for 20 gifted memberships. Much appreciated. The letter is already out in the public. How can it be sealed from the public now? It can't. Like you can't put that poke back in the cow, as they say. It's out there. Wish Ian hadn't showed his toy. Funnier clip then. Fair. This Egypt has brought on most of the publicity. Yeah, she's the one who wrote a book about this. If she hadn't written the book, I can guarantee you nobody would really care. The allegation of wife kills husband with poison. We get dozens of those, and they're not like super high profile. But wife kills husband with poison and makes, and writes book about grief about her husband. That's what gets attention. Like, I'm just going to say, if you ever commit a murder, it is probably a bad idea to do a press tour about your murder. I'm the live under the rock type. I mean, you're here, so maybe not as much. Gave up listening and watching the news when it stopped being in-depth reporting. Yeah, I mean, the Depp trial really showed us that the media was not the best at reporting the facts a lot of the time. Fiona W., thank you so much for 10 gifted memberships. XCDA, Ian showing off extrajudicial verbal skills. Yes, I am correct on Google Maps and also on the pronunciation of extrajudicial. So, Robin Howard, thank you so much for the YouTube membership there. Much appreciated. Light Queen saying the made-for-TV movie will be titled Walk the Dog. It might actually, now that this is the case. So, yep. Misty Harris, thank you so much. Much appreciated. Emma Zay, just showing appreciation for both of you. You do great work explaining and educating us on the complicated implications of these difficult trials. Much appreciated. I have 5 pens to auction for the extra live stream. I got to map all this out. Thank you for the gifted membership and then the 10 additional gifted memberships. I'm guessing the first one was a typo, but I appreciate it all the same. Nicholas Staros says, if that arguments hold, all defendants will write those letters in the same manner and circumstance to get the case thrown out. Won't happen. I think there's a real argument for that. Sandy, thank you so much for 10 gifted memberships. Honk Banana, no, I heard you live tweeted a hot tub stream. I would love to be able to do a hot tub stream. I don't own a hot tub. Right now, it is snowing outside. Literally snowing. And one of the greatest things in life, one of the really nice things, is being able to sit in a hot tub while it's freezing cold outside and enjoy the temperature differential between the cold outside weather and the warm hot tub. I don't have a hot tub. And I don't know anyone with a hot tub. Life advice. It is better to have a friend with a hot tub than it is to have a hot tub yourself, because hot tubs are expensive. So, Baby Gator, thank you so much for 10 gifted memberships. And Midnight Drury, thank you for the gifted membership. Much appreciated. AG, what reason could defense lawyer have for staying on? Loyalty to the client, belief in the cause, and also money. But I actually suspect, based on reading this, I think that this lawyer is a crusader. I think this lawyer is somebody who really deeply cares and really deeply cares about their really deeply cares about, the cause. I think this lawyer gives a shit. And let me tell you, as a lawyer who gives a shit, we're kind of dangerous. And what I mean by that is that we will go to the mat. I've got a landlord tenant file right now that one day I hope to be able to tell you about. And I hope I can tell you about it, because I am going to go to the mat on that one. I also I'm going to tell you guys, once we're done this, I'm going to tell you guys a bit about a case I was fighting for myself. And so we're going to talk about that. What difference is hiring a good top 10% versus a super lawyer top 1% versus the best lawyer make? Can a top lawyer get you out of more/most issues? Now, super lawyer, I think, is a brand. I wouldn't say super lawyer is top 1%. It's marketing. Anybody who says that they're the top 10%, top 1% versus the best, when lawyers tell you these things, don't necessarily believe them. Especially a lot of the awards that lawyers get, a lot of the awards are paid awards. Not all of them, but a lot of them are awards that you pay to be in contention for. And they basically just reward that. So now, what difference do they make? They can make a huge difference. And yeah. Especially in the criminal law context. Have you ever had a client you were certain was innocent get convicted anyway? How did you feel about it? I have told this before, but I will say, people always ask you, how do you sleep at night defending guilty people? Guilty people are easy to defend. You do your best. And whatever happens, happens. And at the end of the day, if a guilty person gets convicted, you're like, oh, well, it happens, right? I did my best, and you always do your best. Even if you think somebody's guilty, you do your best. Especially because sometimes your mind can change on that midway through. But I have had clients who I thought were innocent get convicted anyway. And I could tell you, if it were legal for me to do so, I could tell you each one of their names. The conversations that we have after the conviction, where we're talking about hey, so you're going to jail. There's not many of them. There's not, but every one of them is etched into my heart. In the sense that if you were to cut me open and, pull out my heart, you'd find their names carved there. It's hard. The clients who will keep you up at night are not the ones that you think are guilty. It's the ones you think are innocent. There is nothing more terrifying than a client you think is innocent, because the stakes are so high. It is so important at that point, and you just want there's only one acceptable outcome, right? I have to win this trial because the guy is innocent. It's tough. It is those are the hardest files, bar none. So not like there was a witness who said native guy did the thing, just a thing happened, let's arrest brown people. That's exactly it. It was the Crown agreed that the actual arrest itself was bullshit. They just kind of didn't understand that my client was entitled to defend themselves against a bullshit arrest. So Joe Loy says, I really like your ethos. Thank you. It's the only one I got. So Alf Liggins, thank you so much for the member anniversary there. Shiraz, thank you for 5 gifted memberships. Much appreciated. How do you find a great lawyer? You should make a video on that. That's actually not a bad suggestion. If you want, you can go watch a lawyer's trials. Like, you can talk to a lawyer and be like, hey, I want to watch your trials. I've told clients to watch my trials before. I had a guy who said, I don't think I'm going to hire you. I think you're too junior. And I said, okay, I got a trial next week. Come watch. And he did. And he hired me. And so, yeah. Don't hire a lawyer who gives out the LSAT scores. Don't hire a lawyer who puts their LSAT score in legal filings. So that's important. Let's just see here. Can taking on a client cause affect your career negatively? For example, you and gun-related topics. Taking on gun-related topics has affected my career negatively. I can tell you that if I didn't talk so much about guns, the fact that I am, a YouTube, that I have a YouTube channel with 240,000 subscribers would almost certainly have gotten news coverage. Would almost certainly have gotten other sort of accolades. But I don't get those things because, in large part, I do firearm content, and people are somewhat hostile to that. So it can. And at the end of the day, it's not that there's so much business. It's just that I have a pretty comfortable life. Like, I'm good enough. I don't need to own a Ferrari. I don't need to own a Lamborghini. I don't need to own any of these things. The stuff I really want, I can have. I've got a wife I love. I've got dogs I love. I get to hang out, and I get to, I've got a board game prototype. I've got hot sauce I made myself. I've got, I get to go and do things, and my life is actually pretty awesome. But I'm not if you gave me an extra $1 million a year, there's when you ask me, what would you do with that? My answers are not going to be I would want to buy this fancy car, or I'd want to do all these, things. It's, I would want to help people. The main thing I can't do, because I don't bring enough money, is help more people. If my YouTube channel grew big enough that if I was making small child opening boxes of toys money, millions of dollars a year off of my YouTube channel, I would be running my YouTube channel as my business, and then running my law firm, running a law firm pro bono. If I was getting millions of dollars a year via this YouTube channel, I would have a staff of an assistant and 2-3 lawyers, and and I'd handpick people for this, and we would just purely do pro bono law, free law, just to help people. That's it. And so the things I want to do that I can't aren't hey, I want to own a boat, or I want a bigger house, or any of that shit. It's, I wish I could just do more to help. That's it. I look around and I see a world, on fire. I see people drowning. I see people struggling, and I just wish I could help more. And it's sad. Every time I visit a client who lives in desperate poverty, I wish I was in a situation to be you know what? We will fix this. We will solve this, and you're going to be okay. But I can't, I'm not in that position. Maybe one day. So, yeah. Anyway, I'm kind of rambling. So, next super chat. Or, just donated, Ian. I am an Alberta gal, and the Stollery is a special place in my heart. Thanks for doing this. The Stollery does a lot of good work. They took me on a tour there, and I was quite impressed with the stuff they do. Question: if you are fairly positive they are guilty, do you encourage them to plead? I encourage people to plead when I'm fairly positive the Crown can prove its case. Where the government can almost certainly prove their case, then it's a good idea to plead out. But if if I think my client is guilty, but the government has no ability to prove that, then sucks to be you, government. You don't get to convict my client today. You should have been good, not lucky. So, yeah. If you bring up the directions feature in Google Maps, what comes up are a list of imperatives. That's more than just a map. Sure. And if I tell you directions and I get it wrong, like go to the first stop sign and turn left, and it turns out at the first stop sign, there's only a right turn and left puts you into a bog, then I don't have any liability for that. So, I mean, just because the machine says turn into the swamp doesn't mean you have to actually turn into the swamp. So Jeremy Morton, thank you so much. I think I have a little thing for a pink super chat here saying, I love your firearm and non-firearm defense work and content. Thank you so much. And gotta play that. I quite like it. There's another one for red super chats, but don't break that out often. So Lady Law Sandra became a YouTube member. Thank you so much. Kristen M96 says, don't forget to nominate Runkle for the Gundies. Yes, that is coming up. I would love to go see that again. So, yeah. Kelly Towles says, I'm taking the LSAT in January. Any tips or suggestions? Is that going to be before or after they get rid of logic games? Because that is that's going to be a huge change. With respect to the logical reasoning and the logical logical or the reading comprehension, the thing I will say is that most of the and even with the logic games, you do your best work. People focus on the answer choices. Before you get to the answer choices, you should already understand the problem, understand the questions, and maybe you already know what the answer is going to look like. Maybe you already know what the what that'll be. And so sometime I think it might be fun. I think it might be fun to like pick up a practice LSAT and do a live stream where I just do the LSAT. I haven't done an LSAT in a long time, but I think it might help or it might be interesting to just go through it and talk it through. And I don't know if I'd do it timed or just an untimed LSAT and just like go through it as much as I can, but I think that might be fun. Somebody's asking, what is the LSAT? It is the law school admissions test, I think it is. It is a test that is used to determine your suitability to get into law school. It is challenging, and it ranges from 80 to 180. And the reason why it ranges from 80 to 180 is because they basically just added 80 points to it for no reason. But yeah. Is it 80 or 120 that it ranges? I can't remember. It's been a long time. Use the middle lane to stay straight equals specific. I am not following what that is connected. Is he untimed and explain your reasoning while you do it? I think that might be the more fun way to do it, is just to do it as a live stream, untimed, and I'll just walk through what I'm thinking. Like, here is how I am thinking and how I'm getting to my reasoning on it, and sort of show you how I tackle questions. Now, when I'm doing it timed, I wouldn't be talking about what I'm doing. I wouldn't be announcing any of this. And it is a challenge. It's going to be a challenge to sort of announce it or to like read it out. But I think that might be fun. If anybody's got like a spare practice LSAT, maybe I'll grab that. Apple Silver says anything under a 179, you should go flip burgers. I got a 178. It's the LSAT's a tough test. Now we are at this point. I see. This is why Ian and I are friends. I'm not sure what that's in reference to. Is that in reference to the 178 LSAT or just to the doing the LSAT? I'll do it with you. That would be a fun stream. Just us talking our way through the LSATs and so forth. Check with Kurt. He took several practice ones live. Okay, that's I think that might be a fun fun consideration. You see, there are practice questions online for the LSAT. I want to do the actual just LSAT, right? Like so I'll like just beginning to end, we'll take a like the 15-minute break or whatever in it. I have a ton of LSAT practice tests. If you want some, yeah, let's do it up. I will do an LSAT practice stream. I wanted to do LSAT years ago for the logic games. Now I'm out table flip. I'm not gonna lie. I actually think that the logic games were the most fun part of the LSAT. And the fact that they're losing it for another logical reasoning section or whatever, I think is kind of sad. Somebody asked me for some more things I might be auctioning. So, auction item. This thing is an underbarrel holder for hot sauce. It is designed to fit with the barrel of the gun sort of through there so that the hot sauce is underneath. It has a little window. The purpose of the window is so that you can see what hot sauce it is. So, we'll just, so that you can see it's got the burn your regrets. That wasn't the hot sauce I picked, but there's all sorts of options that you could pick, and then you can see which one it is. But just like a standard hot sauce bottle there. Now, I'm going to give a caution on this. Do not use this with, do not actually put this on a gun and shoot with a glass bottle of hot sauce or just at all, because I don't want to be responsible for somebody doing a dumbass thing and getting glass in their eye, especially not hot sauce covered glass, which is like the worst kind of glass to get in your eye. And you wouldn't think that there are like better and worse kinds of glass to get in your eye, but then you hear about like glass covered in hot sauce and you're like, all right, there is definitely a worse kind of glass to get in your eye. It is the hot sauce glass. So don't do that, because the impact of firing the shotgun would probably cause the bottle to break. So that is a bad idea. Now, I have another thing that I'm going to be auctioning, and that is this. I had a lot of requests to buy this. Now, if you don't know what this is, I did a video where I talk about ineffective self-defense weapons, and I point out that this rock that I bought from my backyard would be a better self-defense weapon. And I had a whole bunch of people asking to buy the rock. This rock. So I'm going to auction the rock. And the rock will come with a letter of authenticity. I will certify the rock as the real rock. We're going to auction that during the live stream. You're going to have an opportunity to buy the rock. I don't know. Somebody says the rock is a piece of dolomite. I do not know what kind of rock the rock is. It has little volcanic holes there. So people want the rock. Okay, that is the thing we will do. There's going to be some leather work up for grabs. There's going to be a Kristen M96 has said she will make a robot like Rob's robots for somebody who wins an auction. Rob has put up 5 pens, and yeah. Whoops. Baby Gator says Rob and Ian doing LSAT together on stream equals 8-hour stream. Maybe. I see, damn, I'll be out of cell service and no internet when you live stream this. I am sorry. I am sorry, but yeah, we'll just we'll have to sort of see what people want for the rock. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of options there. There's a bunch of and people are like, where did you get this rock? I literally just got this rock out of my backyard. Like, I walked out back and I was like, let's find a rock. Here's a rock. My wife has told me that I can't auction all of the rocks because we need them for, like, yeah. Do we mail auction items to you or the winner? I guess either. So, yeah. Any hints for which games you'll be playing this year for Extra Life? I haven't decided yet. I might do some Sons of the Forest. That one's a challenging one. I got to decide. Maybe I'll put up something like, people can donate towards one game versus another. I don't know. Is the rock signed? I'm not going to sign the rock. I will put a signed letter with the rock. Don Burke, thank you very much for the membership there. Do you still have Zora's chords? I don't know if I do. She chewed a bunch of them. Subnautica hardcore. Subnautica is tough. My attention deficit makes me want to play something more actiony than Subnautica. So, yeah. I will vote Baldur's Gate 3. Baldur's Gate 3 can get a little porny at times, so I don't know about Baldur's Gate. Auction off 5 of the rocks, maybe. So, all right. Now, there is a transcript. Now, I don't know if I want to go through the transcript. The transcript is 25 pages. Do people want me to go through a Corey Richens transcript? Or actually, no, better idea. Rather than going through Corey Richens or anything else, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my case. So I am currently fighting the government as a crazy self-rep. And what I mean by a crazy self-rep is I am running this as a participant. And I'm my own lawyer, which is always a bad idea. But there is some complicated background to why I'm doing this that I'm just not going to get in here. That said, I am running this myself, and so I just argued this in the Court of King's Bench. Now, I'm just going to say the result of that was that I lost. However, I knew that I was going to lose. Me losing was a 100% certainty. And the reason why it was a 100% certainty is that courts are bound by decisions of higher courts. And somebody else got to a higher level of court before I did and lost there. And because of that, there was zero possibility that I was going to win. Just none. But there is a difference in terms of how badly you can lose. And I lost the best possible way to lose at this. And the reason why is because I lost the case itself. However, the court indicated that they were allowing in some new evidence. And the new evidence that they were allowing in was related to the ban on the Tavors that happened in that just recently happened in Canada. They decided that some Tavors that they had previously determined were legal were in fact illegal. They sent out a letter of revocation to the owners of those Tavors. Those letters are now part of the court record. And because of that, when I go to a higher level of court, I am in an excellent position to challenge their arguments. When they say we don't have to send out a revocation notice, I'm like, but you did though. Like, you still think that you did. So I lost. And I have had some people be like, oh, you lost this case, like whatever. And I'm like, I lost the case, but it sets me up so well for when I'm running this the next time. So people were like, oh, you lost. And I'm like, I did. And I'm going out to drink to celebrate. Because sometimes a loss is a win the next time around. Now, this was in front of Justice Whitling, and I can say Justice Whitling is scary to appear in front of, because Justice Whitling is one of the smartest human beings on the freaking planet. He used to be a defense lawyer, and as a defense lawyer, he was the guy you wanted if you were doing an appeal issue. Absolutely, he was the guy, right? He was the guy that you wanted to appeal for an appeal. He was the guy I would hire for an appeal, just 100%. And he is so freaking smart. So freaking smart. And so when he was our draw, I was like, oh my God. I was so happy to see that, because I feel like my case needs a person who is not, needs a person who's intelligent and curious. And I feel like when it gets up to the Supreme Court, I'm going to have that. But for right now, there's no guarantees. And yeah, and I see somebody noting he was Omar Khadr's lawyer. I don't know if that's the case. Was Whitling Omar Khadr's lawyer? I don't think so. I think that was somebody else. Nate Whitling has run a ton of appeals. And so eventually he was elevated to the Court of King's Bench. And you know what everybody said when he was made a justice of the Court of King's Bench? They said, about freaking time. Like, about time. How did this guy not, how was he not on King's Bench beforehand? He is. So I was quite happy to see him. I don't know that he necessarily liked me the whole time. Like, that's its own thing. Because I'm coming in arguing this weird position. I think he was kind of looking at me like going, are you seriously running this as a self-rep? What are you doing, man? But I feel like we're doing okay. And then now we have to go over that in future. Now, Rob was saying I got to go over Extra Life. So Extra Life is a charity live stream. And what it means is that I'm going to be live streaming. I'm going to be on camera for 24 hours straight. And so all that time, I am going to be telling you guys, give your money, but not to me. I'm going to be telling you, give your money to Extra Life. And Extra Life is a charitable thing. I get to sort of pick which hospital I support. And I have decided to support the local Stollery Children's Hospital. It raises money for a good cause. So I will be on a live stream. I'll be playing games. I'll be chatting with people. This is going to be November 4th. It's coming up real soon. I'm going to tell you, I am going to get silly by the end of it because I got so freaking tired. The good news is I'm going to have friends who will come on and who will help support things. We're going to, I'm pretty sure Rob will be there for part of it. But I mean, it's 24 hours. So nobody else is going to be there for all 24 hours. Parts of it, I'm sure I'm going to be there just on my own. I'm going to send out invites. I'm going to have people on. I'm going to be playing video games. I'm going to be doing stuff. Last year, I did it on 4 hours of sleep with COVID, and it sucked. But we are still going to go. And I am really looking forward to this because it's going to just absolutely wreck me. At the end of it, I am sure I'm just going to be freaking exhausted, but it's worth it. It just helps for the kids. Now, somebody says, what time does it start? I am probably going to start it at midnight. But I might have to change my mind. I might have to do it like from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Or 8 a.m. to 8 a.m. I don't know. I'm going to figure that out. I am told that tired Runkle is the best Runkle. And we're going to put that to the test because I am going to be super freaking tired. I am going to generate some thumbnails and post up the stream online soon. It's going to be a mess, but it's going to be a wonderful mess for all the best things. And I'm really looking forward to it, even though I am also kind of terrified. I will have drinks and super chats are going to be off. Super thanks are going to be off. All of those things are going to be off. The only way you can throw money during that stream is going to be to donate it to charity. And I'm going to be encouraging that. Somebody says, do I drink coffee? I do not drink coffee. However, I do drink energy drinks, and I will be chugging energy drinks like you have no idea. I'm going to buy 3 cases of Red Bull. We're just going to do this thing. And, if I'm tired, chug another one. So, all right. Somebody says you don't drink coffee? Question mark, question mark, question mark. I do not drink coffee. I just can't, I can't do coffee. So, we're going to make this happen. And my goal is $50,000. It's a big goal. I don't know if I'm going to make it, but I want to make it. It's what we did last year. And I want to make it. So, and somebody says you're at 1805. That is US dollars. And so that takes us at about 4% of the goal. That's a long way away, and yet it's also pretty good. What time zone am I in? I am in Mountain Time. So, do I drink tea? I drink tea. Yep. So for the energy drink fund, we're gonna make this work. So I really want to see this happen. I want to make this work. I want to do what we can do here because I think it's important. There's a lot of kids out there. There's some really good goals that they are trying to set up at the stallery. I want to support them. Oh crap! I wonder if I could get. I don't think I can get a Hot Ones box in time. Oh, I got to see if I can order a Hot Ones box and get a new Hot Ones box here in time for a stream. There's Truth or Dab, the game. That's not what I'm looking for. Crazy Hot Gift Challenge. Those look awful. Guys, do I have to go on the oh, that looks unpleasant. Colon cleanser hot sauce. That's a bad idea. I got to see if I can order a Hot Ones gift box and get it delivered to me in time and see if I can set that up because I think that would be fun as well. So that Hot Ones on hedonist.com. So I'm just going to see if I can get season 22 hot sauces. Hot sauce 10 pack. It is so expensive to get shipped here. And I may see about running a role-playing game. We may have David from Prototopics might run something. But I may have to see if I can run something as well. Because, yeah. Chris Mullen says, what is your postal address? It's on my Runkle of the Bailey thing on the webpage there. If you need to send something somewhere else, we'll send. Target may have the Last Dab box they do in Target's out of Canada. They don't exist in Canada anymore. So, Jeremy Morton says, I wanted to do LSAT years ago just for the logic games. Now I'm out. Table flip. Fair enough. Replacing a bayonet by hot sauce is probably a war crime. It would be in war. Rob and Ian doing LSAT together on stream equals 8-hour stream. Yep, might be. Do we mail auction items to you or the winner? Get in touch with me. We can work that out. Don Burke became a YouTube member. Much appreciated. Do you still have Zora's cords you can auction? I will have to check my trash cans. Auction off 5 of the rocks. There's only one that's actually been in a video. So, can you tape a strand of hair to the rock? That's mildly creepy, and I don't want that showing up at a crime scene. I want to see sleep-deprived Robin Ian playing Mario Kart. Okay, that's fun. So you lost? Did I, though? Haha, glad to hear. Yep, that's kind of how that went. You're at 1805 now. Not sure if that's USD or Canadian. Yep. For the energy drink fund. Much appreciated, Baby Gator. Kurt was awesome last year covering for you so you could do Lawyers and Dragons. He was, absolutely. So another shout out for him. Check out Kurt, Uncivil Law. Great stuff. But a lot of others joined last year, which was great. I got to put shout outs and get people to join in. Target may have the last dab box. They do in, is that Missouri, Minnesota? I'm not sure. Massachusetts. What date is Extra Life? That is November 4th. All right. So, now, do people want to see me do some leatherworking? Because one of the things I'll be auctioning off during the live stream is some leatherwork. And so if people want to see sort of the project I'm working on, I can bring that up. I think that's going to be a fascinating project overall. And if people do want to see that, what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to put this on temporary hold, and then I'm going to have to switch computers. I'm going to have to actually go out to the garage, and then from the garage, I can continue live streaming. So if people want to see that, I can make that happen. I'm seeing a bunch of yeses. So, all right. Now, the project I'm currently working on is, KVB Studios, send me an email. My email address is on the About page. Send me an email, and we will, because that sounds awesome. So the project I'm currently working on is a little notebook holder. And the idea behind it, I actually got the design via Midjourney. So it's a bit of an experiment to turn a Midjourney design into a functional object. So I think that is kind of cool. So now I need something to put up. Do I have a good overlay for when I'm not here? All right, this is the overlay we're going with. Some people are going to hate it, but we are going to do that. All right. Can people hear me? Yes. Yes. Thumbs up if people can hear me. I'm hoping that is a thing people can hear. I'm going to kill the fan. I'm going to be right back. 1 second. Because the fan is going to drive people nuts. It's going to drive me nuts. Man, getting that disabled was like solving an old adventure game. So, yeah, hopefully people can hear me. I see people saying that they couldn't hear the fan and it only bothered me. Well, it bothered me, so I turned it off. Ian, did you wash your hands? I did. Yes, Lucky Lager. So for the people who don't know, Lucky Lager is a cheap brand of beer that comes from Vancouver Island. It is it's now apparently made by Labatt's. Lucky Lager is not a good beer. It is the kind of beer that how do I put it this way? I don't regret having one, but I also don't feel the need to have like 6, right? So that is that's kind of ideal for a beer when you're doing leather work, because you don't want to end up in a position where you're sitting there going like, oh, hey, I shouldn't have had so many beers, and now I mucked up my project. So it's the kind of beer that you want to drink at a rate that isn't going to mess up your leather work, if that makes that sense. All right. Now, this piece I left for a bit, and it's got some little marks and so forth. So I'm applying some deglazer on it. And deglazer is basically like cleaner. It is to try to take some of these, take some of the gunk off this. And the reason why I want the gunk off it is because I'm going to be applying some other stuff to it, and I want that stuff, this stuff, off so that it doesn't mess with dyes and so forth. Can I move my face so that the chat isn't in the way? I bet I can. Let me just figure this out. So there you go. Now you got full face. Whoop. Nah, that's not right. So this, I'm going to move up here. And then we're going to do that. How's this? Is this better? Now I'm not near the chat. There we go. So I'm just taking this gunk off this thing. I'm de-gunking it. And now, if you're wondering how does my gun stuff and my leatherwork stuff combine, what I'm using as a cloth is a gun cleaning patch. So All right. Now that mark looks like it's a stain. Oh, well. Largely degunked, I think. That little bit at the edge is going to come right off. All right. This stuff smells like nail polish remover and is probably carcinogenic. What does it say about the state of California? Does it say anything about the state of California? Not legal for sale in California. So it's not just that it's known to cause cancer in California, which, you know, everything is. This is actually illegal in California. That mildly concerning, but I'm gonna use it anyway because it does the things I need it to do. We can't live forever, right? People are saying, can I eat the chat? Boom. All right, so this I'm just getting as a nice smooth surface. And so this is our main surface here. And I'm gonna deglaze it as well. Just to try to remove everything that needs removing. This piece is not going to be perfect, but I'm hoping it'll be good enough. It's got some marks where it's not really absorbing the deglazer. And I think those are actually flaws in the leather because I like playing around with leather that is not pristine by any stretch. Judy, thank you. Have a great night. Now, I'm just going to note here, I'll try to bring this up to the camera here. This was a lot of work to detail. If you're wondering what this would cost if you were buying it, you know, outright from somebody, many monies is the answer. Many monies. The amount of work that this tooling took is a lot. And this is something that I think I'm going to be particularly proud of when it's done. But I just don't know. So the problem with leatherworking is that there's all sorts of possibility, all sorts of potential at various points to just screw things the hell up. And that is both wonderful and also terrifying. Just straight up. Now, I now have a heater running because I don't know if you guys caught this. It is snowing. It is snowing outside. So outside that door, there is snow. Now, you might be wondering, what is this thing for? What am I doing with this thing? Well, so when we flip it over, it's got these little, endy bits here. And basically what the idea is going to be is you slip. I'm going to have to work this in because slip a journal in there is going to be the idea. I think I screwed this up a little bit. So I need to do some modification on this part. And it's going to... Or I just need to live with it. What do I do? Do I fix this or do I live with it? Is it possible to get this both in? Because I should have left more edge is basically what this is down to. Chat, we're going to see if I screwed this up. So got to lift this up. I'm going to have to bend this to get it in. Can I do it? Can I do it? This is not ideal, by the way, chat. This is not how this is supposed to go. Crud. All right. we're going to see if this is possible because I want to be able to send it out with the actual notebook in it. We're going to try this method. So one to feed in this side and the other side at the same time. Can we do it? I don't know if we can do it. Oh, chat, this is making me sad. All right. Now I should note right now this is just secured with glue, so I got to be careful as to how much I yard on it. Later on, we're going to add some stitching, but can I get this in? Oh, maybe. I'm going to do some damage to this notebook cover in the process. All right, chat. We're gonna try to fix this a little bit. So I see people saying bend the leather in a V shape. How badly did I screw this up, chat? Oh. Booyah. It works, but it's not perfect. And it's not going to be perfect. It just is what it is. So we're just going to leave it as is. I'm not going to try to tinker the because the other option was to start trying to cut bits of leather off, and it was just going to have some problems. So we're just going as is. As is, where is. And yeah. And if the new owner doesn't like it, well, oh well, I'm gonna warn them. So now I see somebody says, now next time you know not to stitch the cover closed until after you put the book in. The thing is that at the end of the day, this book is supposed to end up like being able to fit in there. Now I'm just curious, why is that? All right, I'm adding a little bit of moisture to this. I got to decide if I want to do any more tooling on it. And there's a few places where it's just not soaking in right. That might be a problem when I start dyeing it. Robin Runkle, I make things because it's how I process the real world, and it's the only way I have to control things in my profession I can't control. I don't make things for money, but because it brings me peace. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I see, how can one buy this, or does it have to be one? I am going to, once it's done, it's going to be up for auction with the, for the Extra Life thing. So this will be one of the things you can bid on as part of the Extra Life. So when it's done, the idea is going to be that it will be a little, little notebook, and that you can open it up and take notes inside. And that's about it. So that's the idea behind all of this, is that it's going to be a notebook for that purpose. Now I am also thinking I need to do a little bit of what is the best tool for this? I should have brought the little tool I just bought. But what am I looking at here? What's our best option? Dremel. Do I have the right Dremel tool here? Where is it? Dremel tools. XCDA says, Ian, how will the auction happen? I'm thinking we'll do it on my live stream. We'll just periodically pick an item and start auctioning it. So there's that. Now, where the heck? My safety glasses went for a walk. I need those. I will be right back. I'm going to find safety glasses. 1 second. The safetiest of safety glasses. I feel like this covers all of my safe glasses needs here. So, and in case you're wondering, this is capable of stopping, this is like to stop angle grinder discs. So we should be good. Yeah. A little bit of burning, but we'll just live with that. Now, the reason why I'm doing this, I don't know if you guys can hear me at all, is just to smooth up all of these layers that are glued together. I want them at the same point. I want them flat, basically, together. So, power tools make your life a lot easier. Well, I don't know if you guys can see what I'm doing here. This is saving me a whole raft of sanding. A little bit of scorching, but I'm just going to call that cost of doing business here. I'm going to try to take that out later, but All right. So, hang that up there so it's convenient. People are saying that sounds like a dentist drill. I'm sorry. It's not a dentist drill. And I'm saying somebody's saying, I got to pull this up here. Ooh, I got to see if I can pull this up on the stream here. Give me 1 second. Show in folder. Present. How do I get this up on the screen? There we go. So this is Rob's project. He's got a pen on the go. That is a very stylish pen. So that is pretty awesome. I quite like that. That is some excellent work. So basically what I was doing there is, because there's multiple layers of leather that are glued together here, I want the edges to be exactly aligned with each other. I don't want them to have, you know, and you just can't get that without filing it down. Apple Silver is saying, are we still talking law tonight? If you have law questions, I will happily answer them. But I'm doing a little bit of leather work here. We can do a little bit of both. Now I've got these tools. These are edgers. I'm just trying to pick the right size here. I think this is probably the size I'm looking for. And these were a gift from a good friend who is sadly not doing so well. So makes me just think of doing this. You make all sorts of friends, and you and then sometimes you lose them, and that's hard. I didn't think that would be part of this when I got into it. I didn't think that there'd be people I care about who I've never met, that you just you're going to miss. And but it is what it is. And I guess the thing about getting tools from somebody you care about is that working with tools is always kind of a contemplative question. Gwendolyn SS, you said you had a leather question. Fire away. So just so if you're asking, or if you're wondering what I'm doing here, is just shaving some of the corners off to give it a sort of more rounded corner. And it also shaves some of the jank you get from sanding it away. So it gives you a nicer edge. And I always say that you can kind of judge leatherwork by the edging on it. So, yeah, just gonna trim that away as well. So, all right, this bit, or this long stretch here, we're just gonna shave that down. And around that way. So, all right, so I've got that side done up. We're gonna just do the same along here. I've got to get a better shop stream video there. So our shop stream camera, not super fond of this one. I don't think it does the greatest job on the zooming in bits, but we got to work with what we've got right now. So now I'm just going to flip it over, and looks like I already did part of it. And that part, I'm going to just along down here. Yeah, I already did all of that. Great. Fantastic. All right. Now, the thing I'm going to do now is the thing I am always so bad at doing, which is put the thing back on the shelf. That is a tough thing to remember to do. All right. Now I'm just going to... is it... If the prosecutor believes the defendant is innocent, can the prosecutor recommend conceding, or must they step down for another prosecutor to handle the case? Often they will just kill the file. And so then the accused is acquitted at that point. So I'm just going to do this, and I'm going to set it on the lowest setting. So real gentle with this. I'm going to say we're going to treat it like a baby, except don't sand your baby. And you'll end up with LawTube talking about you. Going, what the hell, why would they do that? The last thing I wanted you to be like, well, Uncle told me. So now I can say I told you the opposite. Do not sand the baby. Even if it feels like a good idea at the time, it is not the correct course of action. Do not sand the baby. Whew. Asking Etsy Bestie says, I love your cool Hello Kitty that sits behind you, Runkle. That is actually a Stollery bear. And they gave me that after the fundraising I did last year. And Rob says, I named my lathe after the daughter of a dear friend who I was never able to meet in person. Every pen I make contains a bit of me and a bit of her in the making. Call it a maker's mark from the heart. Oh, I love that. I haven't really named any of my tools, but I guess I might have to. So, how did the inspection for the CFO go for the business license? Pretty good. I'm hoping to get that going. The prosecutor's office and the judiciary in conflict of interest due to historical corruption and nepotism that violate all due process rights is a Supreme Court case. Well, the Supreme Court case gets to decide what a Supreme Court case is. So, maybe. People are saying chat does well at naming. The problem is that so many of the tools I use are just not really nameable, if that makes sense. Like, I don't really know what to name my airbrush. It just, yeah. All right. Now, I'm just trying to decide what I should be doing next. Got all sorts of options, and I don't really know. I kind of want to go bold on this, but I might be crazy. Let me see. Where are my airbrush paints? Airbrush paints. All right, let me see if I can track down the right airbrush paint for this. Fluorescence. I'm looking for. That I could use, but I will need all the. That's one option. All right. Oh God, this is a terrifying thought. Rob, have you been in Runkle's workspace? Rob would freak out. Rob would not like my workspace, and I can tell you why. My workspace is a mess, and I don't think Rob does mess well. So I think Rob would lose his shit in my workspace, and he'd be right to do so, because I can tell you my workspace is an absolute shit show right now. Case in point, I am trying to find masking tape, and now everybody says masking tape, and they don't really realize what masking tape means. Masking tape is tape that you use for the purpose of masking, and masking in this case means that that you are covering stuff up so that it doesn't get wrecked by the airbrush. Because I want to airbrush part of this and not all of it. All right. Oh, there we go. Masking tape. Now, this is expensive masking tape. Masking tape, because just because it's tape doesn't mean it's masking tape. So now I'm trying to decide whether I want to actually mask this thing or not. I probably do. All right. So Let's just see here. Now this is like expensive airbrush masking tape, which means it is better for my purposes. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's good for what I'm looking for. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna throw down a layer of masking tape here. Just wrap that around. We're gonna throw down a layer of masking tape like this. You guys can't see crap because I put the die in the way. There we go. Now you can see a little bit more of what I'm doing. And there we go. Masking tape. We're going to peel off a bit more masking tape here. Masking tape. Does whatever a masking tape does. And be there. I think I also need some more around this edge. Now that's ugly, but it'll work. It's fine. And we're just gonna layer it down on this surface for all the stuff I don't want to paint, or at least to give me a fair bit of wiggle room here. I'm just gonna do it all. So somebody's saying, what is the tape for? The tape is to keep the, basically when I bust out the airbrush, everything that is taped is not getting airbrushed. Somebody says that feedback or something running in the background. I can't hear it because I got these things on. It is my heater running in the background. All right, now the reason for the tape, and this is going to be finicky AF. What I want the tape for is that I want to airbrush the I want to airbrush this pattern, and I want to cover that with red. What I don't want to cover with red is anything else. And so what I'm going to be doing here is using this using the blade to try to cut loose the stuff that is not pattern. So this is going to be finicky. I don't know if I'm going to get it right. But so we can just see here. Come on. So the goal here is to expose all of the carving and not the other non-carving. And I've already started screwing it up. Yeah, I'm going to have to fix that. This is going to be a real hassle and a half. I don't even know if this is doable. This is the problem with picking ambitious projects, is that then later you have to actually deliver on your ambition, and that's hard because I got too ambitious on this one. This is probably the most challenging thing I've ever tried to do. And I can tell you, I think it's beyond my skills, but you don't get better skills without going beyond your skills. So what did I do? Oh, this is going to be such a nuisance wreck. Screw it. Change of plans. I am not doing it this way. If I try to do it this way, I'm just going to hate myself. Change of plans. This is not going to work. All right. Now, in theory, this stuff should come up without leaving any glue behind. And in practice, the only thing it's taking off is a little bit of the finish, which is okay because we're going to cover that. So, we are removing all of this. All of this, that work that I just did, is coming right off. And that is how we're, that's how things are sometimes. You put in a bunch of effort, you have an idea, and it just doesn't work out. You got to scrap that and back to the drawing board. All right. All right. So all of this into the old trash can. New change of plans. We are going to we're gonna do this with just paint. So let me find my paint brushes. Where did they go? Rob says, good night, all. Thanks you for supporting Ian. Please don't forget to support Ian. A new shop camera means more leather work. Makers got to make. Love you all. Thank you. I see, is the $100 or 100,000 plaque in Canadian or US? That'll be in Canadian. Michelle, thank you very much for the YouTube membership there. Rob says, Robin Runkle, I make things because it's how I process the real world, and it's the only way I have control over things in my profession I can't control. I don't make things for money, but because it brings me peace. Yep, that is the way to be. I got to make sure I don't get this red everywhere. Runkle versus Zora during Afterlife with EDB as judge. Ooh. You should have a set time for each item for auction so folks can be prepared. Most can't hang all 24 hours, but you might want a certain item, in my humble opinion. That's not a bad idea. I'll try to figure that out. Chris Mullen, thank you so much for 5 gifted memberships. Much appreciated. An airbrush should obviously be named Puff the Magic Paintbrush. Fair. Airbrush name equals blows now. First woodwork project underway, thanks to you and Rob. Awesome. Glad to hear it. And we just read that one. So, all right. So here's what I'm going to try to do here. Now, this thing comes with a little paintbrushy thing, and I'm not going to use that because that would be a pain in the butt to actually try to use. So we're instead just going to try to apply this. And so basically, we're just going to paint. And I don't want too much of this paint on because I want to not obliterate all these little edges and all these little grooves that it took me so much work to create. I don't want to obliterate them doing this. So you guys saw the trial and error, which was mostly just the error. But now we're just going to paint. Now I can tell you we're going to darken this up quite a bit later on. But for right now, I want my Phoenix to be bright red. So I've got a really bright red color here. And that's where I want it to be. Now, what I'm going to be applying after this is something called an antique, but I probably won't get to that tonight. Just this painting job is itself a kind of a substantial ask for tonight. I may not finish the paint job tonight, but we're going to do what we can. Because I can tell you, I'm getting tired. It's been a day, and you know, when you have that, it starts to wear you down, and you don't want to run yourself all the way to gas on these things, unless it's for charity. In which case, you just run yourself all the way to gas, and then you keep on going. But here we go. Paint. You get better at doing this a little faster as you've got some practice on it, because if you go fast when you're starting, you will mess things up. But I've done a few of these now. Somebody asked, could you paint and then sponge off? Maybe, but I don't know how. And this is not the project for experimenting with that on. I'm hoping this is going to turn out real nice. I'm hoping this will be a really something somebody would be really impressed to own. You know, kind of a tell your friends and not hide it in the closet kind of thing. And if I start experimenting too much, I might end up with the, the other where it's like, I bought this and I feel bad about buying it. That Runkle does crap work. I don't want anybody thinking that. Not for charity, not for just stuff I sell. So, paint. I might go over that eye later and do the eye specifically in some other color. Just paint right over one over the other. I don't know. I might just leave it red though. Sometimes simplicity is a virtue all in and of itself. Like you can get really fancy and do like 12 colors, and sometimes it just doesn't look as good as like a 2-color real simple project. And I wish I could say that I was always good at knowing which it was going to be, because sometimes I do the big thing of like the big 12-color operation, and you're like, that looked better when it was 2. So, but maybe like a gold or a silver for the eye. That might be good. I wonder if they'll let Sam Bankman-Fried have access to paints while he's in custody. Because I'm pretty sure he's going into custody. I mean, he's in custody now, but it'll be, I'm pretty sure he's going to be there a while. I mean, who knows? Maybe the jury acquits him. Maybe he walks. That'd be a surprise. And you're just like, okay, well, guess I should have stolen a lot more money. Because here I am not stealing any money. And I live in a fairly modest home with a fairly modest little space, and that's okay. These bits are a little bit of a challenge because they're lots of finicky, fine detail, and you don't want to get paint in the wrong place. All the stuff about leatherwork is that once you put something down, it's there. You don't get to take it back. Like a talking to your wife. If you say something, it's out there. You don't get to take it back. So, yeah. Now, somebody says that they wouldn't write anything in this journal. I mean, you can replace the writing, like the paper pad. You can replace. So, but I mean, if you just want to put it up on a shelf and have it as a decorative item, that's cool too. You do you, boo. All right. I'm probably going to have to do a second coat on this, but maybe not. I'll just have to see how the first coat looks. But at the end of the day, yeah, I think this is starting to look pretty cool. Now the other problem is you can't get too excited about can't get too excited about leatherwork, because it's always like, hey, this is looking pretty cool. You can always F it up at any stage in a way that you just can't fix. It's not like not like some of the woodwork where you can be like, I can swap in another piece or whatever. It's just like, nope, whole thing ruined. And I mean, this is a lot of hours in this. A lot of hours. Mm. But it's the hobby I like most, or at least one of the hobbies I like most. It's the crafty hobby I like most. How about that? I really enjoy shooting. It's hard to get out. So, whereas this does have the advantage that I can just do it in my garage. People get very upset if I start shooting in here. It's not a good way to do target shooting in your garage. Now I'm using Angelus paints, which are quite nice overall as leather paints go. They're expensive but I can't complain too much. When they do the job, and they do it quite nicely. The alternative is I could be fighting with much cheaper paints. And, you get a cheaper paint and then you're just struggling to make it work. In some cases, it's a great way to ruin a lot of work you put in on something. This red is a little darker than I wanted, but it'll do. Not redoing it. So yeah, this will be up at auction for extra life. I guess I should figure out. Somebody had this suggestion. It's probably a pretty good suggestion that I should try to figure out times things will be at auction, just so that people who really want to see one thing can check that out. Because I get that a 24-hour stream is going to be tough. I'll try to put the sort of, I guess, the best items, or at least the things I'm sort of most proud of at the at sort of times that are easy for people to be awake at. But yeah. Because at the end of the day, this is about the kids. Also going to be a little tough because this time last year we had Squirrel in the chat moderating, and Against the Tide does great work. I just I miss Squirrel. It's not a comment on my current super mod, but you just miss having somebody when you're used to being able to talk to them and used to being able to used to somebody being there. Yeah, me too. Against the Tide, it's You just you think you've got people for long, you think people are going to be in your life for a long time, and it doesn't always work that way. Sometimes you just don't know how much time you get, and it is what it is. But look at me getting all wistful. Maybe I should add more beer. That cures melancholy, right? Yeah, you just all of this that I got, I just would trade to be able to chat with her again. Or even just not, but just have her out there. So, it is what it is. Mrs. Runkle is on notice that she's not allowed to die. So she has been informed that that is against my rules. And hopefully that's something she follows, because I would be most upset. Sabrina says, I told my husband the same thing. Then he reminded me we have life insurance. I tell my wife that all the time. She's like, no dying. And I'm like, but I'm well insured. She's like, okay, fine. I actually got to cancel some of our life insurance because it's house mortgage life insurance, and we're getting closer. I don't know that our premium for that makes sense given our situation. All right. Oh, my back is getting tired, and I am breathing a lot of paint. That's just the nature of things. I think it's actually that I'm breathing a lot of the is the cap on the deglazer properly? Yeah. Finicky, fine detail work. That's what we all love, right? Kind of thing where an errant stroke of your paintbrush can just completely mess up your whole day. Somebody's saying, do I have a ventilator? No. I mean, it's not too bad in here. If it was really bad, I'd open up the door and break out a fan to clear things out and so forth. It's just, it smells. It's not like it's getting me high or anything. At least I don't think. If I start to get loopy, let me know. Sorry, if I start to get loopier than normal, let me know. I see Nikki saying she wants to stream airbrushing. I say do it. It is a little loud, but it's not too loud. I've done airbrushing on a stream before. People didn't object too hard. So maybe I'll put up some music. Wow, this is awful. I've got to find some music that doesn't suck for background music, because what the heck? This is kind of a crime against ears. Okay, let's change that, because I mean, this isn't good, but at least it sounds like the sounds were like originally supposed to be together. Whereas the other just sounds like a bunch of sounds that they found like at the bus stop. People are saying the music is very loud. There we go. Now it's much quieter. All right, let's see. I'm just going to try to rinse this paintbrush off. in an ideal world, I'd have a full sink in here. If I'm ever in a point where I can build like a custom garage, I'm going to have a full sink that I can do projects like rinsing off paintbrushes in. But that'll be good enough. It's got it clean. All right. Trash. People are saying feed the ducks. Whoever said this is awesome, I need to not trust you. So, this, I don't know why, but this webcam is really not doing it justice in terms of the brightness. It is a little brighter than that. There we go. Now you can see it a little better. So what the plan is after this, I'm going to go over it with what's called an antiquing gel. And the antiquing gel is what it's for. It kind of sinks into the grooves, and it darkens those up. And so the goal is basically that I will get this to be kind of red with sort of a background, a dark background. So I'm hoping it's going to look good by the time I'm done. I can't promise. I can never promise on these things, but I hope it's going to look good. That's kind of what we're at. So doesn't look like we've got any more super chats here to cover. I am going to wrap things up here. And yeah, this and some other stuff will be on auction for on November 4th. So for all of that. So that's about it. Do I have any multi-day jury trials on the schedule? I'd like to, not for a bit. So give me a shout. We can talk about that. And yeah. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me. I really do enjoy having you here. And so have a great night. Where's my outro? And outro.